What makes a relationship great?
Before I could slow down, he sprinted to catch up to me and pushed me forward so that I would keep going on my journey at my pace.
What a beautiful metaphor.
And I feel like the thing that saved us is that we never put our relationship ahead of each other individually.
My two best friends, Robert and Christie Campo, are dynamic artists who have one of the most honest and intimate marriages I have ever witnessed. So naturally, I wanted to ask them their thoughts on what makes a relationship great.
Goethe has this quote, Günther, that we all know that you can be blind in the dark, but you can also be blind in the light.
I think that's true.
Definitely true.
Yeah.
Go outside right now real fast and let go.
I was born from the darkness.
I stayed out at the dating game because I think it's a shitty game.
You guys have the sex.
First night sex, first date sex.
When it's the right person, none of the rules apply.
The dating world is definitely pirate code.
It's pirate code.
Really more of a guideline.
We can fall in love with the potential.
You fall in love with your projection.
I still don't give my values over to Robert to hold. They're not his.
Things have to be in a fair exchange. If you're in a relationship and you're not having fair exchange, it's not sustainable.
We had so many nights where we'd walk out to the beach and be like, is this right? Are we still going in the same direction? Do we still want to go in the same direction?
Damn, oh man.
I have told you this before.
I need to hear it again because now I'm a different Susie.
Every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks. Comedy comes in threes.
Not the same thing, but yes.
This is
also
whatever.
that.
Let me just say a bunch of random shit.
If you want to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs.
Bad song is a bad song, man.
In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man.
It's a whole nother level. A whole nother level. A whole nother level.
You know, have you heard of like the Chick-fil-A scandal that's been going on?
No.
Apparently, like,
First
it's
off,
finally
it's chicken fillet. Anyways, that's only funny to me.
Yeah.
And I will always say chicken fillet.
Way to go. So it's, I guess, I've only heard this from one person, so like maybe this isn't true, but apparently it's coming out that it's not real chicken.
There's like a video of guys like digging into vats and then like.
But anyway, Robert got sick.
I'm not surprised.
Robert would get sick every single time he ate it. So we were obviously
my
like,
throat
this
would
is
swell and
like,
stuff
yeah,
like
we were
that.
like, this is not good. So we haven't eaten it in years, but now apparently it's coming out that it's like not
chicken,
not good. Yeah, not chicken.
It's the Bill Gates chicken. It's the, where are they
the lab
the lab chicken.
Yeah.
Chicken.
Oh, they just like get a bunch of cells to. How do they grow it, Bobs? You're the scientist.
That's not my area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm steered clear of that one.
He has never grown chicken in a lab.
Well,
all right, guys, I am here with Christie and Robert, my two best friends in the whole wide world. And you have one of the best relationships that I have ever seen, that I've ever witnessed. And you've gone through the hero's journey in your relationship. And it's been pretty incredible to watch it. And I think I was in a relationship. We both came into relationships at the same time. And you were like, yeah, it's not going to last. Like to me with my partner.
He was like, you came over. It was the first time we met him. And I was like, I'm not really going to get to know this guy because there's no way he's here for day 2. There's just no way. But 3 years later, you're like he's still here.
No, but I think it was sort of one of those things that my higher self knew, and I just wanted to feel what it was like.
You were like, Christie's getting in a relationship. I'm going to get in a relationship.
Choice made. Activate command. Stay.
So I decided that was a great idea to,
And you're like, and we get to live close to each other.
Oh my God. We were literally right there.
We were very close.
Yeah. We were like a few blocks
but we
away.
didn't see each other that much because,
We all didn't get along. With the guy.
Yeah, we got along.
His friends.
Yeah. It wasn't,
We tried.
It was not a fit. That's okay. He's not like a terrible guy, but he's
a great guy.
Yeah. He was fine.
Yeah.
He was great.
Tops.
There was some really great things that I think I learned that I want to talk about with you guys.
And to be fair, the main problem I think with him was that you guys shouldn't have been together.
We never should have been together.
So to be fair to his,
To be fair.
to his
To
soul.
be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair. Yeah. The main complaint is you two together.
Yeah, no,
Well,
he was
so,
great.
like,
He's with the right person now.
When it ended,
Yeah.
him and I got coffee.
Yes. What
And
did
I
he
was
say?
like-
Hold on. Tell me, because I
No,
don't think I've ever
I
actually.
have told you this before.
I need to hear it again,
Susie,
because now I'm a different Susie.
every 3 weeks.
Everything.
The long and the short of it is, we were like, look, nobody wants you together.
Yeah.
I looked at him and was like, your friends don't want this. Her friends don't want this.
Oh my God.
Let's just call it, you know?
Yeah.
Walk our own direction.
That was the takeaway. That was it.
That's it. That's the
did
big,
he-
that's
did
the
he
big takeaway.
ask
And he
anything?
was like, and that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
So he wanted to meet. He was trying to like understand, right? He was trying to get.
Yeah, you know, we get confused, right? You know, he felt like, am I making the right decision?
Yeah.
You know,
And
what
Robert
do we
was
do?
like,
And I'm like, yes.
never come back.
Yes, you guys are doing great right now. Not yesterday and today.
Oh, that's kind of sad. That's kind of sad. I mean, in terms of like, yeah, because breakups are tough.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of sweet that at least like, oh, that's nice, because a lot of it was not nice.
Glad you finally got closure.
I got the closure I needed.
And the podcast is over. Susie's
Hey, and we're done. So how did you guys? How did we meet? How did we all meet?
Through
so
you.
Yeah.
You are our common denominator.
You.
So we met. We met in a commercial audition.
We had Susie has #1 best first impression of all time. Susie Abromeit.
First 5 minute.
First 5 minute, nailed it every time. So we were like, oh God, it's hot. It's this person. We did a worse commercial.
The worst.
Yeah, we were like, I don't care about it. We're
Yeah.
Marshall's
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. And then we didn't see each other for a year.
Like a year.
Maybe
yeah.
more.
It was I was just like, hey, do you want to run lines for this or whatever it was? Like some.
run lines? Oh, I don't know. I've never felt this before. Oh God. I love commercials. And then we did Snow Brides together.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Do you remember this? You weren't there yet. What am I asking?
I had such a crush on you. I really did. And then I think we soon realized that it wasn't.
I had a thing and you know. The thing.
Yeah. No, I had a thing. I was in a terrible relationship. I think we've unpacked that.
The podcast listeners.
They can't handle that one anymore.
No. We're done. We've moved on. Honestly, they don't want to hear it.
They're like,
Not again. So then and you were sort of, as Christie describes it, like my distraction to be like, oh, there's other possibilities out here to get at. It was a 10-year thing. And so you were the catalyst somewhat of like being like, oh, there's other possibilities.
someone called me the gateway girl.
Yeah. And so I would always be talking about you to Christie. And I'd be
I
like,
love that. This is
oh,
hilarious.
Bob's,
Yeah, and
what would I say?
I mean, you were just like, he's so amazing. This is
So I was in a particular phase of my life where I wanted to be really like didactic and like talk about all the things that I had learned. And you were like, let's bone it up. And
because you love chatting.
I love chatting. And I love Tony Robbins and
I was
NLP. We were taking an
this
NLP course.
I did this NLP class and I told you about it.
Does he need to get a little closer to the mic?
Everybody okay?
Yeah, it would help.
Okay. All right. Let's begin.
We can manage, but
We'll bring it in close.
But
From one editor to another, let's not make it managed.
I appreciate you, Christie.
Thanks.
She gets
so
it,
much.
right?
Totally. You guys have a lot of crossover
So
in terms of like voice of reason and yeah.
I was just there to hear myself talk, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of how it came off. And you were like having conversations about
Yeah, you were
me
like, yeah.
with
So
you.
so you were always telling me how amazing you was, and you're like showing him pictures and stuff. And I was like, I don't know, Suze. Like, I was like,
Do we talk about the ambient night?
no,
Oh,
we're going
God.
to.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
cool.
we're going
Yeah,
to. Yeah. But I was like I kind of trashed on him a little bit, but because like you were,
I was trashable.
there were
You were an
things
up and coming it boy. Like you were like,
Yeah,
you know,
that was there was
huge
no
movie.
There was no chance that was going to work. So it was a weird.
Yeah, like she showed me.
Going
you
this
showed
way
me
at the
his
same
his final destination red carpet, and I was like, he's doing a bit. He's doing like a character. Like this isn't like him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I picked you apart a little
and
bit.
Your ability is able to see people really well, and I can see. I'm the same, except I was like blinders of like shiny things, so cute, delicious.
But and already, so you we're talking about him a lot, but you're like, but then you already had complaints or things you thought were going to be problematic, and I'm like, no. Yeah. You guys should never be together. I was like, this is somebody that I would date.
100%. 100%.
It's not right.
And then, so still we haven't met. We were going to, and Susie.
No. So then we met one more time just to see. I'm like, just seeing. And he's
What
like.
are you talking about one more time? We were in class together for 6 months.
But we ended up getting coffee.
And I hated it.
You hated me.
Because you'd show up late. and it was always like, so as an actor, and I was like, I'm going to make it about me.
I mean, you're paying $5,000. You want to learn. You're like,
it was every time you introduce yourself, you'd be like, I'm an actress. And everyone was like, yes, we know.
It's like month 4 and you were still doing that.
Jesus Christ. But who was I then?
No. But you remember in the car, who did you explain to me who somebody was? Remember? Oh, you were like, Whitney Cummings, this podcaster. And I'm like,
I love her. Yeah.
First off,
I love her.
I know who Whitney Cummings is. Second off, you've talked to me about her podcast 17 times.
I love her. She's great. I know. And I forget all the... I forget a lot. Yeah. It's kind of it's become a bit in our friendship.
When real quick, when Susie and I were that famous Jason show we've already talked about, it was before called On a Veil, and in the meeting, which I wrote with her, she reminded me that it used to be. She was like, "Whoa, the show used to be called On a Veil," and I was like, "I know. I helped you write it." She was totally serious.
And it's you know what it is? I think it's I forget things myself and I'm remembering it for myself. And then I'm like, oh yeah. And then you're like, bitch, I remember everything.
She is an elephant.
So you're I have an elephant this one. Okay.
So we're in the NLP class. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
There's this culty figure who's doing some weird stuff and
yeah, and to be fair, you brought her into that situation.
You wanted to be there.
I wanted to. Well, here's the thing.
That was the thing that connected us on Snow Brides.
Yeah. So Tony Robbins, I was learning a lot about NLP, and Tony Robbins and I, we would. Yeah, that was
people
actually
know what that is. Do we need to do that? Let's move on.
Hold on. Neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah. So it's sort of understanding, mirroring, and
you have a dictionary and it's nested in your neurology, and whenever the words are used, certain parts of your neurology fire up. And this is how to organize it properly.
That's great. Yeah.
See, this is why I wanted to
This is great. Yeah. Fucking let's go, Bobs, motherfucker.
I'll wait for the sound effect. Yep.
I'm so happy about this. Okay. So then I think I sit down with you because then I'm like, well, I just need to see one more time. And so then you're just kind of going like this. You're like, I'm going to break your heart. I'm just going to sleep with you. Or I don't want to do this. I don't want this.
You were the green dress at Cafe Luna or Luna?
Yeah, Cafe. Yeah. You're just like, I don't want to do this. You're like, You're like,
and you don't want to do this either.
You're like, I'm going to, yeah. You're like, I'm going to sleep with you and just break your heart. And that's it. I'm not,
I'm going to sleep with you. Heartbreaking is questionable. We'll see.
So then I'm like, I come back, tail between my legs, and I'm like, yeah, it's never.
I didn't say exactly that, by the way, but it was
it paraphrased
implied.
That
was the takeaway.
Yeah, that was the takeaway. You did say, I remember this so clearly. I'm going to break your heart. Yeah, you did. You went bold, and I literally shrunk in my chair because it was so honest and it was so real. And I was like, I know.
And then you paid for lunch, and you're like, fuck that bitch.
Probably.
Is that true?
Probably. I see elephant. I don't remember. But I came back, and what was really funny was I was like, I'll always love him. I was like, I love this man. And I'm like, I think you guys should meet. So we were supposed to meet. We went out and
we're skipping the other story?
No. When we went out at night, and you were supposed to maybe join us, and then you had, I don't know, something going on, and you're like, you flaked. And then do you want to tell a story?
No, you guys got to tell the ambient story.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't skip that story.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's what anyway.
So my mom had just got married. And I decided I was again in this really tortured, crazy 10-year relationship that was terrible. And I thought Ambien, sorry, bring it up again, but context.
Wait, hold on. Tanner, can we have a beep button every time she brings that up from here?
It was just a darker period, but I'm saying like why I
get on the
drank
phone.
a shit ton of alcohol and Ambien.
We get on the
You
phone.
can die from, by the way.
Die from a lot of things.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. So we get on the phone and we're like, let's remember that audition.
Yeah. We're flirting.
And I don't know if this is what caused it, but I had a Niçoise salad. We're flirting. You're playing your line. I'm doing my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little
We're
high.
testing the waters. Yeah.
You know, you're a little high. You know, it's kind of like on the weekend. You know, it's like.
I'm hopped up on Ambien. Who knows?
And I'm like, I'm starting to feel a little nauseous.
At the same time, we both felt
we're
nauseous.
vomiting.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were
Threw up.
like literally
Before phone sex could be had.
Yeah, before phone sex, we both were like, this isn't right. Like something spiritual in like the spiritual atmosphere or
Higher
something,
mind.
the higher mind.
You both vomited.
Both vomited.
And what was really interesting, you said something really, you were like, literally as we're about to have phone sex or like, I'm like, so do you want to talk about that? Like, I was like, do you want to do like whatever this was?
Just wait. I'll see if you say it.
No, but it was sort of, I remember like kind of leading the charge. And then you're like, I just came from this, NLP class about cause and effect. You literally talked about this and you're like, I don't want to be an effect of this. Like, I don't want, cause and effect. So you mentioned that. You're like, man, I don't want this. Like, it was sort of like seeing the responsibility at the end of that. And you're like, hoo-ah! And,
so then
brutal cocktail of Ambien and alcohol of nearly could have died. And I'm just like, yeah. And then that's when I was like, I think you guys need to meet each other.
After you made sure it was not good for you, you're like, now you guys should meet. Which is, which
Good
you
for
should
you.
do.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Because once we met,
it was instant. Yeah.
And
and you knew. That's what's the crazy part is from the photo. Like you were like, Susie is like dating me. We would never work. Like, oh my, like it was a hilarious joke. And yeah.
Well, first, so first off, so I've been hearing about this guy for a long time. I was like pretty underwhelmed with my impression of him. But then before I knew you guys were having a meeting, and then you guys were having a meeting. We were going to overlap. I knew I was going to meet him.
Yeah.
And my body started shaking before I even walked into the restaurant, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like, it was embarrassing, and I was like, "This is weird." So I'm like shaking, and then I walked
because I wanted you to crash the meeting. So I was like, "Hey, I'm going to set up a meeting with Bob's, and you're going to come like and crash, like be like, oh my god, hey." That was the plan. So we had a plan.
Well, I didn't remember that it was a plan. I
felt like it was a plan. Yeah,
probably,
it was like you guys need to meet.
Okay,
yeah.
but then I walk in and I see him, and like my stomach falls, like I'm disappointed, and I'm like, why was I even like? I didn't know I was excited, because he's wearing fake glasses with no lenses.
There's no lens. There's no lens in the glass.
So ridiculous.
And he was like,
No lens. My friend at the time.
Wait.
I feel like I had to include him in this.
You can.
He made watches in wooden frames. And everything would be out of wood, and I was like, "Oh, those are cool. Let me take those." And they didn't have any. I was like, "I don't care."
Is this Joel?
Joel, yeah.
Fucking Joel.
So remember when you broke Joel's heart when he like you saw all of his paintings, but then you saw that he made a watch, and you were like, "You really are an artist."
He was like,
Did I say that?
Yes.
I said some crazy shit back in the day.
You didn't mean it. You were trying to be polite. You just like you didn't say that when you were looking at his art. You said when you were looking at his side job.
Because I think it's like there's so much whatever. We
understand.
Making a watch is like so much more complicated. I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah,
like, that's real. I don't know.
No. I get it, but he was very sad.
Yeah.
So disappointed, and then he was like telling kind of a dumb story. I felt like when I walked in, and then I started calling him on it, and we actually started fighting, which we still do very well to this day. And you kind of left to go change your car meter or something. That was your excuse, but you left us alone for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I was like, let the magic happen.
And then
because you guys were just, it was instant. Yeah. I saw it. You were like, ba 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 ba, and I'm like, my job here is done. And
then you came back and he's like, oh, we should all do like a double date together. You should meet all my friends. And then he left, and you were like, I've known him for 2 years and he's never wanted me to meet his friends.
Legit. I can't believe you remember these details.
And then we had a double date
with Joel.
And you were like, I don't want to be with Joel. But
No. My God was like, she just helped you get out of this terrible relationship. She's been there for you for like, you were my only real friend, like coming out of a crazy situation. And so I was having this whole internal fight of like, man, cause like, so we're on a double date and, you know, I'm having to, you know, take one for the team and it like
Harsh to Joel.
That's just,
I know.
It was not a date for you guys. It was, he happened to be there. You were there. It was like, and there were supposed to be more people there, but they backed out at the last minute or something. Anyway.
I don't remember.
And so then I remember we were outside and we're all like sitting around and it was just like the two of you and us trying to talk or trying to like, but it was like you guys were in your own world and going like the world did not exist. And I suddenly was like, like feeling like left out. And I'm like having to have this whole conversation of like, this is an amazing thing. Your best friend is having like, is finding love. And this is the, you know, she just did you one of the biggest solids of your life. Like God was like, do not ruin this. And I was like, and I was like, okay. It's fine. Because I was like still very like fragile and it was fine. So I was like, okay, this is great.
Hard 10-year-old.
And you're 10-year-old. Do I have a sound effect for that?
Yeah.
So then the magic happens. And I remember hopping over a fence. Like we're all high at this point. We're all like passing around smoking weed and you guys are in your own little world. And then I'm like, all right, Joel, let's fucking look at the stars and fucking, you know, do this. And we're talking and having this very romantic moment that I don't feel like romantic at all about. And I think I was still into Ross. Like Ross and I had this like, whole big thing. Ross Marquand, who like totally fell in love with. Like
I met Ross the day after I met Bob's, right? And then you got all of a sudden you got territorial. You're like, he likes you, and I was like, dude, he definitely does not like me. Like we had you had a great rapport.
Yeah,
we like connected. But I was like, he's definitely super into you. But it made me feel better about liking Bob's because you weren't territorial with Bob's.
Yeah,
at all. Like, but it was with Ross. You got like.
Oh no, my like Scorpio came out. I was like, ooh.
And I was like,
I was like, she can't have them all. Like, I was like, she can't.
I was like, I promise you that you misread that for sure.
And I was like, I know she's amazing. Oh, it's okay. And so I was sort of having to grapple with like those parts of me. I'm like, she is so amazing. I know, but can I just have one? And whatever. So I remember hopping a fence and just taking one for the team and just being like, yeah, it's so romantic. And me and Joel and thinking like Joel's like, oh, the magic is happening for them. Like you guys go off and do your thing. You guys have the sex, like have
first night sex, first date sex, and very anti.
This is what I also wanted to break down. Like totally, this is like when it's the right person, none of the rules apply. Like these rules of dating.
The rules are for the dating game, and who wants to stay in the dating game?
Yeah.
Nobody.
It sucks.
It's a bad game.
It's a bad game,
right?
I agree.
So anyway, so Joel's sitting there, we're looking up at the stars. And so I'm just like, all right, Joel, like it was really fun. And he's like, oh, you're not going to stay. And I'm like, no. Remember, like literally there was no way to get out. So I had to literally jump. Like I'm hanging off a fence and I'm just like trying to get down. There was a wooden fence that I had to.
But like, why didn't you go through the front door?
Yeah, there was a bunch of doors.
I was high, you know, at this point. I think
like it was a house. There was definitely a way
out. It was a cool
out.
house.
Oh, I think it was because
definitely had doors.
I thought I wasn't sure where you guys were, or I didn't want to disturb you guys.
You came to me and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go, and I was like, I'm gonna take. Like I looked at Bob's to kind of like confirm with him, and I was like, I'm gonna Uber.
Or maybe it was like the front door.
Or
there was
they're calling it.
There was like
there
was like a wooden fence after the door or something that I didn't know how to get out. You have to like get through a car.
You got lost.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had to. It was so absurd. I'm like, how am I on a fence right now? Just like suddenly.
Because we told a story yesterday where you were also hopping a fence.
I'm always hopping a fence. It's just for the adventure. Okay, so what was that first experience like? And was this like a soul bonding moment? Because I think in your dating life, you've had these incredible, you were like the muse where you would have these incredible, moments. So first of all, like I want to hear about like the backstory of like your dating life and how you viewed, you never wanted to be married. And
I was in two very intense relationships my senior year of high school and then my freshman year of college. They lasted 8 months each. And those were the longest relationships I had been in before I met Bob's. And I after that second relationship, I was like, okay, this is not working. I need to figure out how to be like an independent grown woman all on my own before I could ever possibly think of being in a relationship. So 8 years single, but I had lovers. Like, so yeah, I would have like really intense, beautiful experiences with men for short periods of time that I was not wanting or needing to go anywhere else.
Right.
And then with Bob's, like definitely, I mean, the first time he kissed me, it felt different. And then our sex was different. And
why was it different?
I think it was both. I think it was both like very sexy and rough, but also very intimate. Like I remember, I feel like sometimes you have sex that's like very sweet and intimate, or sex that's like raunchy and like dirty and yummy. But to have the combination of the two, like I remember we were after like a pretty raunchy part of the sex. He like came and like laid his head on my stomach and like looked up at me.
Yeah, I
know what
remember
mean?
you saying
Yeah,
that.
and I was like, and then even in the shower afterwards, he like, I had a booger in my nose that he like pulled out, and I was like, this is so different than.
Oh my God.
And like to like a few days later when we were having sex again at his place after the shower, he like showed me his Invisalign for the first time. He was like, no, you like smiled and you had your Invisalign like to see how it would react. And I was like, cool, you have Invisalign. Who cares?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you didn't care about a lot of stuff that was sort of surfacey.
You
things.
were in.
That was surprising.
He was in a phase where like he wasn't wearing tennis shoes with jeans. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
I had such an aversion to it. It didn't look right. I don't know. I had something about at the time I'd be walking, and if I looked down and saw something that seemed off, I was like, ah.
You were putting on. You were
There's
trying
image.
something.
Yeah.
You were trying.
We were
an
both
image.
trying. We were trying on images. I remember at the same time
Yeah.
what we also probably connected on.
Yeah, which I mean, honestly, like I was just clueless about. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah, you still are. That's not.
I know. I was
her
putting on a
thing.
Grace Kelly, like, I'm going to be very demure, very mindful,
Yeah.
like before, way ahead
And
of his time.
Oh, I don't want to like fast forward and come back too much, but like that being here now after being gone so long,
Yeah.
that was like so we're driving down the street. It was like on Bronson.
You mean here in LA,
Yeah,
now
in
living
LA.
in Georgia, just for people who don't know.
We're driving down Bronson, and it's this guy's going 4 miles an hour the other direction in like an 80s, like beautiful Mercedes drop top, hair perfect, like he looks like sort of 50s, 60s, style, just in the smog, riding. And I was like, this dude's living in his own gimmick. He's living his gimmick. He's living the gimmick.
Living the gimmick.
Yeah.
Robert loves.
Yeah,
living the
I have a
gimmick.
friend back in Georgia. Like he looked at me one day. He's like, "Yeah, you're living the gimmick," because I would wear whites when I was painting a house, and he was like, "Painter's living the gimmick, huh?" And the phrase is what's important. And you're like, it's like these people are just driving around or walking around town trying to project out this image so that they want more people to get sucked into that image, and the more
Right.
people that will believe that spell, then they're a spellcaster. So it's like
Yeah.
part of the sort of illusion that I was in. at the
No,
time.
totally. Same. Guilty. Yeah.
And then I remember. I mean, still after I just assumed because also like I had heard from you, and I mean he had like the first story I walked in on, he was like kind of seeing 5 girls at the same time or something. You know what
Give
I
or
mean?
take.
Yeah. And so like I just I still just assumed that this was if it was going to be anything, it was going to be one of these Muse situations where he had this very intense, beautiful, short thing. And I remember saying like we were overlooking the balcony. He was like rolling me his own like blunt, and
I had a Spider-Man tin, and it had tobacco and weed in it. Mix them together.
By the way, Tanner is a big Marvel or Superman. Superman is his thing, and
Okay.
so I'm like Spider-Man. So it's kind of
Yeah.
those are not the same.
Those are not
They
the
both
same.
wear they
DC.
both wear red and blue.
True.
They both are men.
Yeah, that's how they identify. No.
Superheroes, super. Okay,
They've got some
continue.
powers.
Yeah.
And I remember saying something about, I'm not into relationships. And he goes, well, too bad you already started this. And as if we were already in one. And I
Yeah.
was like,
I knew within 10 minutes of meeting her, I was like, oh, this is going to be significant.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a blonde
It was
bowl
like-
cut at the time.
I know. That's good.
No, because you know what was really interesting? You talked about wanting to manifest like a Miley Cyrus
Yeah, oh, yeah.
energy
Yeah, I was
into
in
your
this-
life, like when in her wrecking ball phase.
Okay, which
I was in the
I
wrecking ball
understand
phase.
that I look nothing like that now, but at the time I
You
had.
looked very similar.
Wait, I need to bring up the photo.
Oh, no, Tanner can bring it up
You
in
can
editing.
insert it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
insert a
yeah.
photo.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can insert the photo. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
T, you got it. Yeah.
He's got it.
Because are you just gonna show it up to the camera?
Everyone look at the TV. One, no, the behind you.
I see. Here we
Look
are.
at that bowl cut. Wow,
Wow.
So I did at the
You'll
time.
be searching for an hour for that.
Miley
12
had
years
like
ago photo.
Miley had very short bleach blonde hair with like a little pink in it. I also had very short.
And you were
bleach
a model.
blonde
Hair
hair with a
model.
little pink in it, and I had some tattoos and like. So we did look enough similar. Where him calling that in and then seeing me walk in is
Like a day later.
a day later.
Yeah. A day later.
You were giving
a long
Miley
time ago.
Cyrus.
Yeah. So
Giving Miley Cyrus.
even though I wasn't one who did put on the image,
But no,
You
but
didn't do
you
that.
were a rock star. I actually literally at the same time would call you a rock star because the thing about Christie is I would invite her to these like A-list parties. And it, you know, I was like, hey, you should go to this one. Like, you know, I think I can't remember. Did I invite you or I
went in your place. You couldn't go. Is
I
that what
couldn't
you're
go.
talking about?
Yeah. When you were just having dinner with like Danny DeVito and Helen Mirren, and she's holding court like a fucking like everyone loves her at the table.
I came in a Batmobile.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't driving the Batmobile.
You mean a Bruce Wayne?
What?
You mean a Bruce Wayne?
A Bruce Wayne? A Bruce Wayne Batmobile?
You mean like a Lamborghini, right?
Yeah. A Lamborghini. A nice.
A
cool
Bruce
one.
Wayne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A Bruce Wayne.
Was it like Aerosmith there or something? Or?
That was at the party. I didn't meet them at the party. I got invited from the party to the dinner.
So
Like,
it wasn't
was
like, it was
yeah.
like, was it Jim Carrey and all?
Jim
like,
Carrey was there. Yeah. And I
yeah.
love Jim Carrey, but he
Yeah.
looked really sad.
He looked
And
really
And he
sad.
was talking to a bunch of like young models and he like
Yeah.
looked at me and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's right to go over and talk to him. So I didn't. But
Yeah.
I saw him from afar. I was like, what's up, bud?
And then you and Aerosmith, he was like being like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
because you were
he liked
playing
my-
pool or something, or
I don't know if I was playing ping pong. I'm very good at ping pong. So people like, if I play ping pong, like people
You're
get excited
crazy
about
good.
it.
You always beat me, and it's
No, you beat me a couple times
a couple times.
Yeah, you
That's
beat
how
me a
good you are.
couple
You
times.
always like
because
you know.
tennis.
Tennis. Yeah.
Doesn't translate that well, huh?
No, she's excellent as well at ping pong.
But no, you're just better. Like literally, like scotch in hand. I have a photo of her scotch in hand, just going with one hand, just going boop boop boop, schooling whoever. And this is like the greatest thing. One of your best qualities is just you're a fucking rock star. You can like just hang with the coolest people.
A couple days into our dating, we went over to Joel's house and there was a beer pong going on. And do you remember how we decimated that house?
Like no look backwards.
No look, just
like one cup left,
in people
winning
like
the game.
staring in the face, like don't need to look.
Like, and a couple of the girls that he was seeing at
they
the time
there.
were there.
Yeah, and one of them trying to. Nah,
Wait, this was beer pong?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, of course you would crash. Like, yeah.
Slade.
So, okay, so he says that you're going to be in a relationship.
Yeah,
You're just
and-
like, he's done.
And then all of a sudden I'm like I called you after. You were like, how was it? And I was like, I think my life just changed. And then I got a lot of anxiety because I was like, I don't think we texted that same day after we like left each other. And then I was like, man, I think I'm going to have a hard time if this just fades away or becomes like one of these things that is a muse situation or whatever. I was like, it feels different for me now. Like I feel like I'm, and then I was and then the next day I was over at like a guy friend's. He was a trainer. He was a good friend of mine at the time. And he just calls me up. He's like, I just got my first tattoo. I want to show you. And he just came and like hung out with my guy friend, chatted for a while, and then like took me to dinner. And then we had sex in the car, like on Sunset or something.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like from there kept going, kept having sex. And kind of just
You
like
moved in.
Yeah, I
after
mean,
that,
yeah, I was like, I was there, but I mean, I didn't move
Unofficially.
in. Yeah,
But
but
was there.
but we were just around.
My dog sussed her.
Yeah, Reagan
Regs.
was like
Reagan
Reagan was like cold to me for a few days until she realized I woke up a couple hours before him and would take him out for walks. And so then she was like, "No, you're cool. I got you."
Aw. So describe the muse situations. Like what were those like? Because they were very impactful and they did kind of prepare you for Bob's, but they would be these short-lived pops of like hugely expansive experiences?
I think that those experiences, we talk about this a lot because I think that you can have these incredible sparks with people, but like to have it turn into a flame, like a love flame, let's say, it takes two people making a decision to keep walking. And I think that like walking down the path of love, I always think of love as like a path as opposed to like between two people. And I think Bob's was so good. Like he just started walking and like kind of held my hand. You know what I mean? Because I think it was very scared to be intimate, and I just assumed I was going to get hurt. And he was like, no, we're good. I mean, and not like, it wasn't so easy all the time. Like obviously we've had a lot of we weren't ready to be in a relationship together.
Yeah.
Like we kind of smashed into each other. You know what I mean? So there was a lot to like unpack and figure out, and like a lot of bumpy nights and a lot of bumpy roads, but like we just kept walking the road together.
You guys have been together for more than 10 years?
We'll have 10 years this December.
Wow.
Yeah.
11.
Huh?
It's 11.
No, because we'll
13.
be married 10 years, right? We'll have been married 10 years in March.
Yeah, I remember you coming over like a month in, and it kind of hit you because you were really invested now in this relationship.
Yeah.
And Bob's, I remember you were sort of figuring things out for yourself of like, did you want to continue in this industry? Did you want to?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think you went to like Sequoias or
I
something.
freaked out and went to Utah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
a place called Valley of the Gods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it was this, big mesa, expanse sort of place.
Yeah.
And I sort of pulled over on the side of the road. I was like, this is a good enough campsite, and just set up a thing. I had this audition. I can't remember what it was. But it was
for a
me.
preacher, and Robert grew up in a very, very Christian family with a bunch of preachers, and he was like, this is my role. Like
I can do this.
Yeah, like I've studied this my whole life. I'm going to be great at this. And he
I sucked at it.
and he freaked out, and I was like, you need to go get away. And I wasn't sure if he was going to come back with me. Like,
yeah,
I knew he'd come back to LA at some point to like pick up shit, but like,
yeah. And so
we might have been done, but I was like, you have to let him go. He has to figure something out. Like he's got to go.
Yeah. And I could see kind of what was happening. And I was like, oh, girl, like, he loves you. No, like, he's just going to do a thing. Like, and I just remember having that conversation. Like, it's all good. Like, he's so in it. He's just kind of having a dark night of the soul and figuring things out. And like, of like which, path to go down. And yeah. And so then you guys came back together, and then you literally got married within the year.
He proposed within the year. We got married like a year and 3 months later. You know what I mean? Like since the very first day we met.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I proposed, woke up, proposed.
It was like he wasn't planning to propose.
It just kind of came out.
Yeah.
And
and so what was the thought process?
He was testing for a project that would take him to Canada. And we had a conversation, and I was like, hey, and because we were still like, weren't planning on getting married. Like literally a week before, we were with all my family, my big Greek family in Texas, and they were like, you guys should get married. And when we were like, no, we don't believe in marriage. It's something sexier to like not be married and to choose each other every day. Like that was the line.
you were good at that.
I was. Yeah. I have lines like before I met Bob's, I was like, insecurity is like, I forgot the line. But anyway, like after I fell in love, I was like, that is such a crock of shit line that I used to always say, Yeah. But yeah, so he's testing for a show that take him to Canada. And so we kind of started talking, and I was like, hey, I don't think I'd want to go with you. Like if we're going to keep doing what we're doing, I'd want to be with you if you were in a show in Canada. Like, how do you feel about it? And he was, I don't even think you said definitely. I think you were like thinking about it. Like, I don't think I felt like, I think it was kind of left up in the air, ambiguous. I think you were really thinking about it because you didn't want to like say something off the top of your head. Like you've been good about that. And then the next morning,
sometimes
when you can, he tries. And then the next morning, he was like, marry me. And I felt my whole chemistry change. Because I knew I would marry him if he asked, but I didn't think I'd be like excited about it. And then when he asked me, like I was fucking excited, like all of my cells just like turned on. And I was like, yes. And I remember I called you and I called my friend Ray, and I think you screamed, Ray cried. And then I was like, let's just go to the courthouse. And he was like, we can't just go to a courthouse. Like we have to at least like do something.
Was it within a day I got on a plane for Egypt?
Yeah, he proposed. Oh wait, and he was celibate at the time. So after like
What a
sex,
charge up,
Wow.
going to the pyramids.
Yeah, so like sex
yeah.
is a big part of our relationship, still is, and like so he proposed to me. And I was going to 3 days of silence right after he proposed. So like when he left, I went into 3 days of silence. So like he proposed. We didn't have sex after he proposed. He left for Egypt, and then I was like alone for 2 weeks after a proposal.
Oh my God.
And I went into 3 days of silence, and I wrote my vows, and I really got like it was just a really cool time to kind of reflect on what I wanted, because I was so
That's super beautiful though.
I was so scared of marriage for a number of reasons, and I think it was a really cool time to be apart. Like we'd been fasting and like a lot of stuff at the time, and to just sort of be like, this is our marriage, not any other marriage. What do I want it to be like, or what's important to me, like on my side of the street of this marriage? Like what do I want? What do I want to show up as?
And what were your fears and what did you want to show up as?
I think that most marriages are not super great. I mean, you're not in them, but when you look at them from the outside, they seem a little stagnant. Yeah. And I never wanted to feel like stuck with somebody.
Right. And you even considered opening up the marriage just in case if you guys had to be away. Or...
When we first got married, we weren't ready to open it up then, but we were like maybe down the line. Like I still wasn't clear that you could be happy with somebody your whole life. And then we had like flirtations with it, and you kind of started to understand that the reality of opening up a marriage is like, it's not just sex, it's bringing in like this whole other energy. And you're like, we're already having a hard enough time like meshing our energies. You know what I mean? Like to bring in this whole other energy that's like not on the same page. And I don't know, we decided fairly soon after that wasn't.
I mean, in chemistry, you can add certain things together and they have a relatively small reaction. You put vinegar and baking soda together. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but there's other things that could be pretty caustic and pretty acidic and be violent. And so we're somewhere in there. We're not exactly on either end of that. But adding a third thing in, it would have been a little intense. And really, I think the reason why people they all have a hard time with marriage is they're not really, it's a hat that they put on. So all of their feelings and phobias around that, what that hat means, is really in the way of the relationship. And so a lot of work really should be done about like you'd said that thing when I was in Baton Rouge. You went to like a bachelorette party. Somebody asked you what your definition was, and I think everybody was sharing that. And you had said it's your marriage.
Yeah,
it's not anybody
is
else's marriage.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of responsibility to walk like that or to enter into a relationship like that. You're actually taking responsibility, and you're not blaming any other past event or their inability to be who you need them to be or want them to be. And that's a little scary. It's a little bit more exposed.
Totally.
So you're more like a raw nerve in a lot of ways. And so it can really bring up a lot of the latent internal fears that are sort of buried in the subconscious.
Yeah, you're mirrors, especially both of you guys, because you're always constant.
But I do think the ceremony of marriage in and of itself brings up like you do attach yourself to this like ancient ritual that all of these people before you've gone through, and it does bring up like
activates a different circuit.
It activates a different circuit, and we were reading Osho's Book of Secrets at the time, and he's so anti-marriage.
Osho is such an interesting, weird character.
Yeah, he's a weird dude.
Yeah.
There's like 111 meditations.
Yeah,
and that's why
I thought it was like
interesting.
118 or something.
He has some good insights. Like you're
12.
like, whoa.
No,
then like some great insights. And then you're like, whoa. And then like it's just then some really things that are off the wall that you're like,
Yeah, I mean a wild, like, I love
Wild Country.
Wild Country, yeah. But I love what Anton Robert Anton Wilson said about, he said it about Crowley, but you think Osho is the same.
Which one was it?
That he opened his third eye before he opened up his heart chakra.
Yeah. He had this whole, he's really into a magical tradition.
Whoa.
And
wait, are we talking about Crowley or?
Well, both of them, but like
Okay.
meditation and all that stuff it's a way. The magic is just a
ceremonial magic is like a sped up version of some of the Eastern practices.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, you kind of kick it into one lifetime
Right.
as opposed to many.
Yeah.
And so with that like kind of rapid, desire to elevate yourself, you skip over some steps in the process.
Yeah.
And if you open the third eye before you open heart up, then real paranoia can come in. Real fear will come in with it because now all of a sudden you're like, I can't embrace
Because now
new
you're seeing
reality.
so much, but then you're not, more
Yeah.
connected.
So
it's not
you're
a balance.
disconnected.
Which is
yeah.
which is
you
really
go nuts.
crazy because most yoga studios only teach opening up the third eye. They teach that meditation without opening up the heart first. And I know this, like there's a yogi that we're all friends with who we're no longer friends with who only tried to open up her third eye. And I think she succeeded in that. And I don't think she opened up her heart chakra. And we've seen the like.
And that what that means
real
is,
time.
what that means really is like you're seeing you see that there's a balance in life, and you see that everything is about love, and it's
With the heart chakra,
with the
you mean.
heart chakra. So you're able to embrace things as they come in as what they are, and you're seeing them as like, oh, this is a necessary part of my development.
Sure.
And when you get into this place, it's more of a power place. You're more using it to be like, game the system.
And like
Wow.
you know how you're always like in the spiritual realm, it's all okay.
Yeah.
And so they're
Not.
like, yeah, here, but it's different set of rules here. Than we're not in a different realm. We're in this realm. And
Yeah,
so, like,
it's all love there. I mean, there are like demons in that realm,
Well-
but like I'm talking like the super, super high vibration. It's all love is basically when I've, received downloads and when the spirits talk to me. I mean, like the dead people. Sorry,
we
and
all
the aliens.
and
we-
the aliens.
we all know-
Oh God, here we go.
I don't want to sidebar that to say the Goethe quote. Alien.
The aliens. Well, yeah, the aliens have come to me in dreams, and they're like, "You're not ready. Okay, we're leaving." They're like showing me, I don't know, like ancient Egypt and rituals, and I'm like, "Oh, it's terrible!" And they're like, "Yeah, you're not ready. All right, bye, bitch." So, because I guess in this other realm, they don't have emotions, like I guess, or it's not the same where it is here. We have like our bodies and we feel pain, and there is no pain in that realm.
There's also no sex in that realm.
There's no, I think the download that I got was the sex.
So pain and
It's like
pleasure are dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Susie believes everybody has sex with everybody up there, but it's a different.
It's a different, but it's-
without body.
Yeah, it's like no, but it's more of like, I guess, like a hug or something where it's like collectively coming together, but there's no there's no pleasure, there's no pain. I guess it's more of a collective join of joy. It's joy is what it is, where it's a, I don't know, like just hugs of joy is sort of, but like
Sounds hot.
Hugs of Joy is a great bad name.
Hugs of joy.
Joy sounds so trippy. That sounds
Everybody dressed like a Care Bear.
That's like a
You
Dave
shoot
Chappelle
love.
bit. Hey, shoot love
On
on
her
the
chest.
Do it all the
I've done
time.
that. I do it all the time.
Oh my god!
So Goethe's got this quote. You're talking about like the other realm. Goethe has this quote. Günther, he has this quote that says that we all know that you can be blind in the dark, but you can also be blind in the light.
Mm.
So it's a cosmological.
I think that's true.
There's
Yeah,
I mean, it's
definitely true.
yeah.
Go outside right now, real fast. And go.
Oh,
Drive west at sunset.
yeah, it's terrible. It's the worst. I hate it every time. You're, oh god, my eyes.
So the idea is that some of these beings that live in the light realm, they're not necessarily out for your development. They're there for their own ulterior motives.
Mhm.
And so they're real interested in, it's easy to attract them. And so if you start doing something or bargaining with them in like a Faustian contract,
Yep.
so then, it doesn't work out
There's a lot
well.
of
I mean, because like
A lot of
Doesn't
people
work
at
out well
P.
for the
Diddy's
guy.
house doing the Faustian deal.
I mean,
right?
I mean, Lucifer is a light being,
yeah.
Yeah.
a being of light. You know,
Yeah.
Wow.
And we can't tell if she's good or bad anymore. I mean, I've kind of lost my way on that. But some cosmologies have her being not so good, and others have her being good. So,
and he's
Wow.
saying that that like that energy it's both and beyond a gender.
Yeah, I mean, now we're getting into like Luciferian, where it's like isn't it like Aleister Crowley or something? They say that that do what thou wilt, and it's basically
That is the whole of the law.
But it's basically, I think the thought of that was that you can ascend higher if you make a ton of terrible mistakes or something.
Not higher, quicker. You'll ascend quicker. Yeah, because I think
lower you go, it's a doctrine of sin. The lower that you go, then there's no waffling. You already hit bottom, so it's now
right.
You've explored all of the darkest parts. You've brought light to all of the darkest parts. The parts that you thought you could hate, or the thoughts that you feared, the parts that you thought were evil and terrible and gross. You've now embodied them. Therefore,
and you're like, wow, that was a bad deal. Let me try something because
I mean, we're not into the doctrine of sin.
We're not doing it. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
definitely not trying it because I think like just enough mistakes that I think like all of us have talked about where we're like, we just want it. Like great is awesome up here.
I do think we're like,
God is just great.
I think we're pretty like baby naives compared to some of the stuff that we at least hear the rumors about around this town. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
But we're all
we've
like,
been famous adjacent and thank fucking God, you know?
yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's rough out there.
It's tough out there. It's
tough
real,
out there,
it's
man.
real tough out there.
it's tough out there.
Okay, so the sacred, hold on, I need to blow my nose real fast because this is bothering me.
Susie, be quiet.
Doing it just fully here and real. And you know,
We're here.
We're here.
We're here.
Okay. All right.
Would you mind blowing your nose into the mic, Susie?
Okay, ready? All right, there we go.
Has anybody brought up the sweaty balls SNL skit?
We did it with
Does it do it all the
Alona.
time? Okay.
Susie has done it a few times.
Sorry.
She's
Sorry. A real original.
well. To be fair,
To be fair.
Dude, that show killed me.
It's amazing.
We binged that show.
We binged that show.
Can we
real
give
hard.
context to the show? real
How are you
quick?
now? Good. You? Oh, not so
All right,
bad.
now. Yeah.
Not so bad.
Not so bad. God,
Letterman
that
Kenny.
guy's so funny.
Letterman Kenny.
Letter Kenny.
Yeah.
Letterman Kenny. Letterman Kenny.
Unlike Superman and Spider-Man, there is no man.
Well
Another
done.
commonality. Yeah.
Well done.
Way to bring it back.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can group things together.
Flashback humor.
Okay. Yes. Comedy comes in threes.
Not the same thing, but yes.
This is
Also
whatever.
that.
Let me just say a bunch of random shit.
If you want to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs.
You want to eat an omelet? Get a plate. Right, Susie?
Every dog has his day.
Every cat lives in the nighttime.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
A blind man can't read a clock.
In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
But the two-eyed man laughs at everyone else.
Oh my God. Oh, that was so good. Okay. The sacredness of ceremony and the power of marriage, which you never believed in.
Speaking of
then
sacredness
we're
of ceremony, so we did LSD out in the desert with.
I have that on that list. We are covering all of it.
So I shot the pilot for Scream, and a guy that I had done a movie with a couple years prior,
Tom
Madden.
Shout out.
He's never gonna watch this.
The snob.
You never know.
Yeah. So he takes us out to the desert, and we have a whole day.
Well,
and,
first we get stuck in terrible traffic.
10 hours to get to Joshua
and Tom
Tree.
and I are just fighting
the entire time.
In the back seat, like cats and dogs.
I made a comment about how I didn't like the Cheesecake Factory, and somehow that was offensive for him. And then we just went off.
Sacred place, Cheesecake Factory.
That's not even like a great, amazing. I mean, there's some nice dishes, but like I'm not like dying on that hill, you know?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Susie, don't. Bad hill to die on.
You're like, no, Wendy's is the best burger. So they're arguing forever. I was like, this is going to be weird. So we finally get to the place, and
neither of us had ever done LSD.
Never done it before. Tom is leading this journey.
Yeah.
Like he does.
Yeah. And we'd been, again, fasting. We're really into fasting before any major psychedelic experience. And then we read The Prophet. We went around and read The Prophet.
Yeah, we spent a day getting ready for it.
And we set our intentions. We read our intentions out loud to what we wanted the trip to illuminate for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went on a...
And what were your intentions?
I don't know. You remember?
Yeah, I wanted to grow...
You would remember that.
She remembers everything. It's incredible.
But it's weird because it's so... something I wouldn't say today. So as I said, I wanted to grow my sphere of influence.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what my intention was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then
So as the sun was setting, Tom gives us these coconut
dates from the coconut
from
shaman.
the coconut shaman.
I remember this. The
Venice.
coconut shaman.
There's a guy around here that's got some stuff.
He dresses up as a tree. I mean,
Something
it's
like
just
that.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
You
He
shake
like,
him and it just drops on your head. It's
totally LA. It's totally
45
Venice.
minutes. It's rolling in. We're kind of watching the thing happen. Tom has this special parking lot that he parks at and then goes out of bounds and camps out of bounds.
Yeah.
And takes us out there and he looks at me and he walks us over to this one spot and he goes, "It's a vortex, man. You want to see the vortex?" I was like, "Okay, let's go see the vortex." So he walks over there and it's like, I'm walking now and I'm like, this is intense. And he looks at me and he goes,
we had taken a second one at this point, right?
"Did we pop the second?" Okay,
Yeah.
we popped the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 45 minutes, he's like, "You want to do another one?" Pop the second one. And then he looks at me and he's like, "It's like a tool, man. You can do whatever you want with it." And I just like look at this canyon wall and I was like, melt. And I fell down. I like, we completely went out.
We both fell down. And we were like,
I was like, I need to get back
our
to the
necks
tent.
were turning and like I was like spiraling upwards like into infinity. Tom grew into this like 10-foot. He has like a tiny bit of Native American in him, I guess, but like
He's 164th, Jerry.
he was all
Turned into a tree?
No, he was like this
No, he was
ancient,
he was like
tall,
20 foot tall. Yeah.
Native American man, like who was just sitting and like watching over us while we were unable to walk, like unable to move, and just downloading.
So I got into the tent. You came in with me. I was like, I gotta get the dog in here because I'm gonna lose track of this dog. So you get the
Where
dog
are the
in
keys?
tent.
Where's the dog?
Yeah.
Where's
So
this
that
chain
hadn't
of
started yet.
us?
So there was a point where I start going like completely into this other space, and I remember seeing these like gray eggs that were in like this triangle relationship, and I was like, I think that's the gateway to this other side, and I was like, I'm gonna go. And the second that I started to go into that gateway, she just grabbed my knee, and I went and like I didn't know where I was. I was like ratcheted back in.
Did you intuitively?
No, it's just coincidence.
Well, but I will say that like Bob's gets a look on his face whenever we do a large amount of psychedelics where I'm like, is that bitch leaving? You know what I mean? And
She told me this the other day. She was like, there was several times where I'm like, I don't know if he's dead or not. He's just like our last large mushroom experience in 2020, I think.
I feel like I'm having a shroom trip with you guys. Like I'm just I'm like, oh God.
My intention was to accept death. And then I look over and Bob's is like not staring, like not moving. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, and I kept being like, oh, I'm so cool with death. I'm so cool with death. What are you doing? Yeah. Like, oh my God, not your death.
So Tom,
not when we're doing psychedelics, I will freak out,
So Tom comes over and he's got, I don't know where he gets his stuff. He's a Burning Man guy, right? So he had these little handheld speakers that was a right and left.
So you're about to go
speaker.
into this different realm. Hold on. I'm still stuck on the fact that you see these eggs and somehow it's a realm that
It's like a gateway to another dimension. And so he comes over and he puts on
I'm like getting nervous.
it's Robbie.
He ends up okay.
No.
I'm okay.
I know. But for some reason, you know what I'm saying? Like,
So it's Ravi Shankar and Philip Glass. They have this album called The Offering. And it starts with this, which is really like smooth sound. And he's just doing this. And she's like playing with it around our ears. And I kind of like roll out of the tent. And we're both looking up at the sky. And at the same time,
all three of us gasp because
a meteor break into three, and it's but it was still dust.
But it was like a green
meteor,
monster meteor.
Yeah, and I saw a dragon sort of come out.
Yeah,
of the
like
sky.
it was like not what you normally see, but we all saw it and we all gasped at the same time. All three of us, we all go,
yeah.
And then I started riding these sort of like spirals up and down, and I could see down on our campsite.
And all the stars,
she was seeing chandelier stars.
Were like they were all connected by a light, and they were like twinkling. I can still see the stars like that sometimes.
Yeah, and you kept hearing them ring. But my favorite
and then
part
people would come tell me stories, like entities would come tell me stories, and I can't tell you what they said, but my body was like nodding, and I was like, I will tell your story, or like, you know what I mean? Like it was like I was being downloaded information, and I
remember you were speaking like you were writing down stuff of a different language. I wasn't even here, but I remember hearing this or something.
He started writing poetry, which I write poetry normally, and he does not. But he was writing poetry, and then I was writing. I was like doing like math equations or something, which I do not do. I was like.
Did it make any sense?
I don't know. You know what I mean? And that was like.
We used it for kindling.
Yeah.
It was cold. And this wild windstorm came in. So right before that happened, this is one of my favorite parts of the story. Tom decides he wants to start a fire. And she's always been the one that starts fires. She just does that. And Tom's like, hey, woman, let the man handle the fire. And right as he says that, this big gust of wind comes and blows flames onto his face.
So much so he has to fall out of his chair.
God.
Yeah, he was like, woman, let the men do the work. And the wind was like, and he was like,
let the men do the man work. Yeah. And then boom, he's on the ground. That was
crazy.
Perfect.
And I got really, we weren't supposed to even be at that part of Joshua Tree. Not let alone like not have a fire, and it starts raging out of control. And all of a sudden, all my spidey senses, I'm like, guys, we have to put this fire out fucking now. I'm like, I'm not going to be responsible for burning half of Joshua Tree down while I'm on an LSD trip.
Oh my
I will
God.
freak out.
It's not good optics.
Yeah, so like we ended up. Tom got like so angry about it. Like we
He's
fought.
like, don't stop the fire.
Yeah, and then put it out, and then like right after we put it out, just like
80 mile an hour wind.
Yeah. Like,
his tent was just rolling
like his tent,
past the vortex. He's like trying to rodeo the tent.
But I found out later from because he still like would give me shit about making him put out the fire, and then I found out later from his girlfriend at the time, who's no longer his girlfriend, who we totally love.
We loved her.
Isn't she
She's so great.
But she was like, just so you know, like not even like. When I was with him, all these other people were doing an LSD trip or some trip, I guess, and they had this huge fire, and he's like, "Put it out." He like did the same thing, and I was like,
"Yeah."
So we spent the rest of the night, Tom and I. There was a rock formation that looked like a rooster's mouth open, and the moon came up directly out of the rooster's mouth, and so we were just up on this mountaintop,
like howling. But her favorite part of the story is when you were like, "Where's Reagan?" We were like,
"Where are the keys?"
We went through this hard loop.
Yeah.
It was a hard loop.
It was a hard loop. And I would be like, wait a minute. We got to find the keys. And she'd be like, I got to pee. And then, or Tom was looking for keys.
Tom needed the
You
keys.
to pee.
I had to pee.
I had to find Reagan.
Yeah.
It was just, we would be like.
And then like,
it would trigger like when you would,
it would
like,
loop.
It was
weird.
it was like too dark to go pee. And so then, but there was a flashlight in the car.
So
but
like, then you got to find the flashlight. But then where are the keys? But wait,
there's
where's
a hole in my
dog?
bucket, dear Liza.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just
it was ridiculous.
Did that for like 45 minutes.
No, and like we knew we were in the loop, and we like couldn't get out of it,
Couldn't break
and
it.
then like we'd be like, oh my God, we're in a loop, we have to break it, and then I'd be like, I have to pee. Like we would just like
start it all over again.
start over. It was crazy.
That's
Where are the
pretty
keys?
weird.
Where's Reagan?
So we're driving home the next day. And nobody's really talking. And I just look at Tom and I'm like, that can't be a $10 high. And he was like, I don't know what that was. And I was like, well, you're the guy that does this all the time. And he was like, I don't know what that was. So now his answer, he sort of convinced himself. I don't know if this is true or not, but he convinced himself that he gave us double doses each time. That there was like, we were getting 2 hits for one.
Whoa,
and
that
that's
makes
where,
sense. You were doing the
maybe.
hero's journey, the superhero's journey.
Maybe, I don't know.
But we do think that experience was part of the reason we decided to get married.
But
back to circle it around, like that experience, we were like,
not
if
a lot of people are going to go
yeah,
through
like
that.
not a lot of people will go through that experience together. And I think
And I also think that it was because of the combination of people.
for sure.
So Tom became the obvious choice too.
Yeah, Tom married
Yeah,
us
totally.
because of that experience, really.
Do you think those moments of doing like super psychedelics is a soul bond?
I will not do super psychedelics with most people because I think it definitely bonds you, for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, you want to do? And she's like,
Yeah. He's like,
but now it's at the point where I'm like, you want to like have fire, invite people over, and she's like, not that person. You're like the equinox. No, that person's not coming.
not all the way.
It's like
what happened.
85%.
I am, you know me. I am very careful with energies. And Robert's definitely like more social, and then like regrets his decisions
I regret
later.
myself later.
Yeah. Like he's
it never is what I
we're
was
similar
looking
where
for.
we've like gone into like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. They're like, why did we do
Bad idea.
this?
yeah. He's like, why did I want to do this? Like, God, I want to go. Like, I remember we went out to an event like not that long ago, and then he was the one that really pushed to go, and I was like, okay, let's go. And then he like 10 minutes, and he was like, this fucking sucks. And I was like, no, we're here because of you. Let's enjoy ourselves.
What event was that?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because normally I think I only did like smoking weed or did like psychedelics with boyfriend at the time. And that was the only, but it really like you see so much more, and it's you have telepathic conversations. It's you go into a different realm, you kind of feel like, oh, I can see the truth more in these realms.
You know, it's interesting. We are pretty into esoteric practices. Robert like really goes, I think he's, you know, most of them, you know, from your studies. And there's similarities in a lot of them, but we laugh because we're like, we've done a lot of this stuff, but just together. Because most of it's like group, like at least ancient, it would be like a large group ceremony. But we're like, we did it. We just did it with just the two of us. Which
The one that she was talking about, your intention was getting used to death or accepting death. Mine was to understand God, and relatively quickly into that trip, a column of light just showed up in the room, and a lion's face came out of the column of light. And so that was like this side of the room. And then right over here behind me, I turned around to see a like 1,000 tentacled like octopus being covered in eyeballs. So like
the OA, it's kind of giving.
No, he did not have a tentacle up his ass like she did in the OA.
I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. That's crazy.
So
just when I think of octopus, for some reason, I think of like, I don't know.
You think of the OA?
I totally forgot.
The Nature Channel.
The Nature Channel. I forgot that there is an up the ass thing. Okay, abort. Abort.
No. So up the ass. I always want to know what that meant. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, no, I actually do. If I ever talk to her, I'd be like, what was up
What was
with
the deal with
getting-
the ass?
Why did you let yourself be injected with an octopus tentacle up your ass? Like, why was that a part of the story?
I think I missed that.
It's in season 2.
It's season 2.
No,
it
no.
got weird in season 2.
It got weird. Yeah,
Was it-
but I
No.
remember it like the
was on the
tentacles.
stage.
No, it's upper ass.
And then it was.
Did we make that up? I'm pretty sure that it was upper
I
ass.
Do we,
inserted
Tanner, can you Google that? Because I thought it was just
It
the
inserted
octopus.
itself.
I
into her
watched it.
sexually.
I don't necessarily. I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tanner,
see,
first off,
I
there's
thought
a
the tentacles just went on
no,
her body.
no.
And then it was mind reading. And
it plays the like Russian alter version of her tape, and it starts talking about anal sex, and then so it says that like off. So she plays the button. And it's like anal sex, and then the octopus crawls up out of the, and we can only
That was an
assume where it
excellent
goes.
octopus girl.
We can only assume where it goes. We chose ass.
Oh, yeah. Maybe
doesn't
we
show-
Maybe we just.
This
It doesn't say
particular
that.
person thinks it was going near her lady bits.
Well, they're pretty close.
Well, inserted into private bits. Yeah,
Jesus.
We're talking a matter of inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the holes down
Damn.
there
In
it
America.
was inserted.
I missed it.
Anyway,
Or maybe it's metric somewhere else.
Okay, so you
No,
saw an
no, I don't-
octopus. Octopus.
So octopus.
You saw an octopus.
So there's I don't really know what that was. I think I know what that was.
So you saw a lion in an octopus.
So you put those two together, and you have the demiurge. There's a Gnostic idea. These are all like 2nd century Christians. Christianity was pretty wild in the first couple centuries.
yeah, it doesn't look anything like today's Christianity.
Nothing even
Wow.
close to it.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like illustrations that you can kind of get a handle on. Whether some of them are more modern artists that would draw. Like I've literally seen a solar lion fighting a sort of a black sort of octopi beast, and I've seen a painting, and I'm like, that was what I saw. It's awesome. And I remember when I was sitting in there, I'm like, there's two paths here. And it's not necessarily that this one is good and that one's bad. This is definitely more Sith land, and that's definitely more Jedi land. But you're like
Gryffindor, Slytherin.
yeah. And me and Theo bang Snake House, as we say.
Yeah, Snape came from Slytherin.
Yeah,
He's one of the greatest
He's
people
one of the
Harry
greatest.
ever met.
He's the OG.
he's the OG. So that was just up for offering, and it was a lot of visuals like that, and they're not always like that. So I'm in the shower and I'm just like turning the lights off and get steamy and like just playing with all these images that you're seeing, and then
This is on the shroom trip.
yeah, it's all the same one. And then you get in the mirror and you look in the mirror and you're like watching all the tribal sort of things crawling all over your skin. Have you ever seen that?
Oh no, I've
You
just seen like when I've done I've tapped into my goddess, where I'm like super hard on myself, and then I'm like, whoa, I look like the like Venus or whatever
Yeah.
that is. It's like suddenly
Venus.
Aphrodite,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is right.
So yeah.
Or
And-
Diana.
I see like snowflakes on people. Like
yeah.
like it's like
Mine's
we all
much
have
more
our-
like
Oh, I can
warrior
see
tribal
energy.
thing.
This makes no sense, but I can see, and I
it
can
makes
still
sense.
see it. I can see like it's almost like neurons or I don't know.
That's
like,
our
Fiery
friend
stuff.
Arnie when he was on his break Could see that.
So I can see it when I get my nails done, which is probably not a great sign. I can see it in the airplane when suddenly I'm like looking out the window and I unfocus my eyes and there's all this like energy thing running around.
Oh,
and
you're
then,
just, yeah.
And then also when I've done the shroom trips where I'm like, I can see energy. Like,
Yeah.
So I'm looking in the mirror and I feel this sort of spiraling, inertial, vortexy thing inside of me. I'm feeling that. And it like changed my hair. It was the best hair day I've ever had.
I heard about
Hands
this.
down. No question. And I would walk out of the room and I'm like, check this out.
I was like, holy
It's like,
shit.
look at this lion's mane
Yeah.
that just was there. And so we were studying Wing Chun at the time. And in Wing Chun, there's these forms that you do. And, you know, we'd only did it for 8 to 18 months or something like that. So we were like not good at it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you practice this thing. And it was the weirdest feeling that I've ever had because the form did me. I did not do that form. And like I was like punching holes in like big, thick, like columns of wood. And it didn't have any effect on me. It
Oh
didn't
my
hurt
God,
me
I
at
heard
all.
about this.
And
Yeah.
I was just continually doing it. And I was like, look at this.
It was like the Matrix. Like suddenly
And so-
you're Neo
Yeah,
dodging
so-
you're like,
bullets.
this is what you're supposed to do.
Later on, we found out that because I was telling some of the guys at the studio about it, and they're like, yeah, the berserkers or like the people that studied these different art forms, they would just go get lit before war. And they would just roll through
Yeah.
stuff. And I was like, oh, wow.
Because they could see more.
And we
Well,
found
they-
out
yeah.
from these animal documentaries that we're always watching because of our daughter that like lions will, before they go try to take over another lion's like women, it will go find like it's like in a buffalo or
dead buffalo's testicles.
they'll
and
eat dead
consume
and it lets off like a toxic psychedelic testosterone or something that like
yeah.
gives them
And they go
the courage
rage.
to go kill another lion.
Whoa. Crazy.
Yeah. So that was one of my.
I don't know that it's psychedelic. I probably added that part, but it's a drug that they take that helps them
Cuts
take
ahead, the
over.
line is drooling.
So wait, okay. So now, so you guys are living in Venice and you're studying martial arts. You're having these psychedelic experiences. And then I know you guys had some challenges. How did you overcome that? What were the patterns?
Like in our relationship or
Yeah.
living in Venice? In
All
our-
of it. Yeah. So like, I guess, overcoming like just the weird energy that lives in, sorry, that if you didn't see that, that was just a sprout of like, sorry. But,
The droplets.
the droplets. Oh my God, I'm sorry. So, yeah, you guys had some challenges in your relationship, and at times you were worried you weren't going to make it. How did you overcome that, and how did you overcome your patterns? Because you guys chose a different path from both your families.
The image thing I was talking about earlier, you're trying to create this image and like you're trying to live that thing out, and that's not a sustainable thing.
Yeah.
You know, so like all the details don't really matter. Like that's the specific. That's the like nuts and bolts of it. At the core of it, you're kind of living this. You have two worlds going on, and you can't.
You're
do
living
that.
a bad gimmick.
It's living a bad
Bad
gimmick.
gimmick.
Yeah, it's a bad call.
Bad song's a bad song, man. Rick and Morty, right?
Overproduced, underproduced, bad song, a bad song. So we like a very difficult decision. We were like, we gotta call this. We gotta go because a lot of the auditions that I was getting, when you had,
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, our challenges in our relationship and then challenges in LA are like kind of related, but not the same. You know what I mean? So like,
go for it.
well, I was just gonna say real quick, like I remember we had so many nights where we'd walk out to the beach and be like, is this right? And I feel like the thing that saved us is that we never put our relationship ahead of each other individually. You know what I mean? Like we were like, are we still going in the same direction? Do we still want to go in the same direction? And I think that really, like whatever was going on, us like not even giving ourselves an out, just being like, I see you as the infinite soul that you are. Like, do we want to keep walking this path together? Is it the best thing for us to do to like achieve what we think we're supposed to achieve while we're here? And we always kind of came back to like, yes, we want, let's keep going. And I think the challenges that were happening in LA as artists for us were, you know, like that definitely bled over into our relationship. But I think we decided, like we were having a really hard year as artists. And
It was pretty reckless too with you're talking about esoteric stuff. So I was sort of blending stuff I was doing at work with that. And sometimes that would sort of, fly up in my face and I would be burned like Tom in the face.
Like what? Like what do you mean?
So I met this acting teacher a few years, but it was the year we met. And she was
Nancy?
Nancy, yeah.
Yeah.
And
She taught us some cool stuff.
yeah,
though.
so the gist of the class was if you can channel,
It's a tool, man.
Yeah.
and you do whatever you want with it. So she would set class up. She would put on like African drum beats.
Yeah.
And she would talk about how everything is light. The table's light. We're made of light. We emit light. It's hydrogen is just frozen and fractured light. Blah 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 blah. So because of that, then they're not disconnected from anything else. So your imagination you can use to start to channel things, and if you can channel things, if you channel these colors and use the movement and the sound to do it. So it's very much part of the mysteries to be using, ritual, dance, and music, channeling light. Okay, so if I could channel this red, then I would find a song that would feel more sacral. Then I'd find a song that would feel more ethereal. And then you start to put colors on that. And if you could do that, then you can do emotions. If you could do emotions, you could do characters. And so the idea is the writer is writing something that's all being put like on page, but it's also being the intentions going up into this astral plane. And like I can read it, but I'm now limited by my ability to interpret these symbols. But that thing is direct. So if I can tap into that, I can skip over all of the like, what is my moment before? And like, what time is it? And like, you can skip all that nonsense and just go straight to like channeling the character, or channeling the writer's intention. And so I took that and just got lit with it and started doing weird stuff with it. And so I spent like 2 or 3 years. I would just like do a lot of dancing in the dark and like started bending light around and playing with my imagination. And my imagination started to show like a lot of feedback, started to give me what I was asking for it to give me.
Yeah. What was the feedback?
I'd just start seeing things. You know what I mean? Like I'd see like shapes and stuff show up in rooms, and I'd see lights show up in rooms. And it wasn't just an imagination anymore. It became sort of like Harry Potter land.
Yeah.
You
Like
know?
sort of like you had
Maximus.
like I feel like after those psychedelic experiences,
Yeah, you start getting the door opens.
It's like you have in Doctor Strange, it's like you're looking through a keyhole.
You spent your entire life looking through a keyhole.
Yeah,
Now
this
someone
is-
tells you can widen it.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I think we realized that like be careful of wisdom you haven't earned.
Yeah, and I used it recklessly,
Mhm.
and it bit me. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Cool, thank you for biting me."
You know what? One of
I mishandled that snake.
one of Nancy's exercises that was really cool that we did. We were there. Was dealing with energy that if you're, somebody had to think like negative, terrible thoughts at
you
you,
love that
right?
one, yeah.
I love that one
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was so interesting. So if you're walking down the street, and this was, I would practice this a lot, which you would have to imagine a wood barrier. So what does wood feel like? So it's kind of like it's protective, but it's not as protective as say steel or, so then I would get really creative and I would have like, okay, it's steel with spikes and mirrors. And like, so you have to see yourself of like,
I can't understand
To
why.
fight darkness is to fight yourself.
to fight yourself. Yeah. To fight darkness is to fight yourself.
So to go along with that, the other day the cows got out.
born from the darkness.
You've married a doctor.
Really adopted it.
So the other day the cows got out, and I couldn't go find him. I was in the dark. And so I was like tromping through this field. I'm like looking for the animals. And I was like, find them. Oh, they're right there. So I was like, we got to get you back in your pen. And so I'm walking, and Rita started getting real like, I have a cow named Rita Hayworth. And Rita got really like kind
You
of
had some
jazzed
chickens
it up.
named Prince and Iceberg Slim. It's
Yep,
great.
yeah. I had
Those are the
all
roosters. We named the roosters.
All the
yeah.
roosters were named after
They're
pimps.
pimps.
Yeah, they're pimps.
Roosters are pimps.
And
for
so
Shidlo.
you were talking about putting steel and
Yeah.
So they started running at me. So I had 5 animals running at me, and I just like with my mind swept them to the right, and all of the animals started literally walking sideways while they were still looking at me.
Men
And
who stare at goats.
They walked into trees. It was the weirdest. I was like, that was so weird.
So there was a study, right? The men who stare at goats.
Yeah.
The movie
George
about it.
Clooney did a movie.
Yeah,
about
George
it.
Clooney did a movie about it. Can you explain this? Because I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard about this.
Yeah, so supposedly the CIA or
It's one of
whoever.
It's one of the best lines in that movie. When is it Jeff Bridges? He goes, amphetamines are meant to be used, but not abused.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they just basically like they tried to hop people up on and see
when
what
you
what you
when
could
you
do.
take drugs, there's a veil that's naturally over
Yeah.
all of us.
Yeah.
And some of these, as you gain wisdom in whatever that means, you can start to see beyond the veil. The drugs sort of speed that process up. And
Yeah,
make
you
it
get
immediate.
you get like a quick look pass.
Yeah.
Quick look past. But
Yeah.
you also open a door where stuff can get caught into your,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's a little bit of a,
Yeah.
Like we're very pro disciplined drug use, especially like because of our own experience.
Yeah.
with it.
No, it's dangerous.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
serious, it's not for the faint of heart because you do have to set intentions and you do have to kind of
Yeah.
call in
And-
God
and-
and like protect you.
Yeah.
And because there's entities that can get in.
For sure. And I'm very big on like catching up to the wisdom that you've earned. So like there's a reason I haven't done a big trip in years because I'm like, I had years worth of download in that trip that I'm still like catching up to in my normal waking veil life. Right.
Yeah. So what were the patterns that you guys had to overcome? Like, and then you guys decided to move because then it was just, you know, I think what you said, Venice it was just emotional bedrock or just, it was.
I think Russell Brand said it best when he thought about fame. He was like, you imagine it's just a tumble dryer full of tits and money. And I was like really attracted to that idea.
grade A pussy.
So, you know, that was a thing that I had to temper out. You know, it was too difficult to do a life that's like sustainable and then also like create an image that's sort of like how do you balance those two images out? You know, how do you balance those two intentions out?
I think we both, in the mix of what is a true deep love of ours for the craft of acting and writing and storytelling was mixed a lot of stuff that wasn't great. And I think that we realized in the state that we were in, we weren't even we wouldn't make it as a couple if we like made it in our careers at that time. And I think we didn't really like have the choice. It's not like he like got a huge show and was like, oh, I'm going to be with my wife instead, you know, and same with me. But I do think we were like, let's go focus on what we know is important and sort some stuff out for ourselves and like be better than we are being now,
Yeah.
you know, like with all of it, like we were getting to a point where we weren't wanting to just have these amazing ideas anymore. We were wanting to see them reflected back to us in reality. And we weren't getting the yeses from the studios. He wasn't getting the final yes, even though he was testing. And like, it just got to a point where we were like,
and thank God I didn't.
no,
in a lot of
that's
those
what I'm
because,
saying. Like our higher selves knew we weren't like,
We weren't being utilized in the proper way you wanted to tell stories anyway. Like,
Yeah,
because
and
it's hard. Like most of the stories out there, like you're like, I hate this. I hate
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean,
hate
like,
that."
so, like, the-
except Guy Ritchie.
and I was becoming bitter about it, even
Yeah.
how I talked about it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not really, you know, that's not fun to be around. You know, you're like, oh, did you see this movie? And I'm like, fucking hate that movie. You know,
But I mean, like
everything.
Yeah, but there's a lot of terrible storytelling.
Whatever
out there.
though. Oh, that's irrelevant.
Why I just listen to podcasts all day long.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I
hear
mean?
you. I hear you. But that's irrelevant to like, you know, like we're doing this. You
Yeah.
know, and actors aren't supposed to they're not supposed to like moralize. They're supposed to serve the writer's intent.
Yeah.
And so if I'm moralizing, it's not sexy.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get very far with that. So I was doing a lot of that.
And we definitely didn't like, we weren't like, oh no, we're about to break up, let's leave. Like it wasn't like that. But looking back, I think that there was a version of our higher selves that was like, let's go, like things seem fucked here. Why don't we go peace out, do some stuff that we know.
And this
we're
was
into.
right before COVID. So you
we're-
kind of
so
saw.
we're- No. We are packing up. And we walk out. There's a little strip of grass that I would take Reagan to.
I think I told the story yesterday.
And the mountain's on fire. This is where your house burned down. So I
Yeah.
was looking as we were putting shit in the car, and I was like, the hills are on fire. Time to go.
Time to go.
Time to walk.
Time to leave.
Yeah,
like
this
literally.
is okay. I see that.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
And then you're like, I'll take your place.
I'm literally like,
we moved
hey,
into our place.
I've always loved your spot. I always thought, if you guys would leave, I totally would,
My
can
house
I-
burned down. Can
Hey,
I?
can I
move
stay
it?
here?
What was her name? I don't remember.
The landlord. The
God,
landlord totally regretted that decision.
The landlord was so mad at us because she did our walkthrough, but we were doing the music video.
Oh my
And
God.
so we hadn't cleaned the place yet. And I was like, well, you
Yeah.
came early. And she was like, it was terrible. And I was like, but we
Yeah, I was
told
like-
you it wasn't done. We were still.
Yeah, I was like, we
had this
still
whole
had
thing.
our whole lives in there. Like
And
it
so-
wasn't done
And
yet.
so,
Yeah.
so in that conversation, I got her to be like, okay. And then I was like, so can you do my friend a favor?
Yeah.
Can you keep the rent where it's at and not move it up? Because she had every right
No,
to.
she'd already decided that before she saw the walkthrough.
No, is that
Oh,
what
yeah,
happened?
yeah, for
So
sure.
she was just furious. On
Yeah,
the phone.
yeah. Oh, yeah. She was not happy. I think she was also not happy because she'd already agreed to do us a solid, and then she saw the place, and then she was like,
I was like, but Susie's moving in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine. I'll fix it.
She'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
And then Susie makes that. We were just talking about how like landlords love me when I'm living there because I never like care about anything until I leave, and then they're like, "What the fuck is this place?" Because it's just like I've just workshopped my life, and then like they hate Susie while she's living in the place because she's so demanding, and then they see it and they like she's put like $20,000 into it. It's like so much better than it was.
No,
before she moved in.
I reinstall like different lights and different like I make the place
like
twinkle lights, and-
watering systems.
yeah, like I had reverse osmosis in there. It was like a $2,000 job. Yeah.
You left it.
Well, yeah, I left it.
Just
Yeah.
drag it out of the wall.
No, it was fine. I was like, it's just too much work.
Was this the spot in Venice with like the loft?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
this was their spot first.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. I have your TV.
No way.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So-
I took it a while ago.
Yeah.
Appreciate
They so you guys had given me a bunch of stuff because I had lost everything at this point. But it was,
We gave you
best thing
that
that ever
purple
happened.
couch.
Purple couch. Yeah. It lived well.
Yeah.
The purple
It didn't
couch.
it didn't last.
It didn't
long.
last.
You got it out of there.
And then I had a great TV, and then I gave that when I was moving. I bought a new TV, but then I gave it to Tanner. It was like a perfect, full circle moment. So how did you guys break the family patterns? Like, how did you guys choose something different? And because like this is a huge thing probably for most people, to overcome, because there's always these family patterns that are passed down from generation to generation. And it kind of feels like you guys made different choices. You dated, like you didn't do the patterns.
What you're talking about is what you said is that like, I don't know who told you this, but most people will marry somebody like their mother
Like the
or
Maja.
father,
Yeah.
depending on the sex.
Yeah.
And that's,
You're just like my dad.
and that's not like, that's recommended no, right? Like who said this to you?
I don't remember exactly, but there's Jung's got that idea of the anima and the animus. That sort of suppressed side of yourself, because we're whole beings. So because we have a particular biological expression, then we tend to show about 75% of whatever that is naturally. Typically in the distribution, there's always outliers, but like the anima for me manifested.
And that's the male, and the animus is the
Wait, no,
female.
As a male, the anima is the
okay.
female voice.
Oh,
inside.
And then
okay,
the
got it.
anima, as a woman, I have my animus is a male.
You have a male animus. And so that character, I know what she looks like. She kind of looks like Catwoman, but a specific kind of Catwoman.
Catwoman, by the way, for reference, is your cat. Wait, Catwoman?
No, Catgirl.
Catgirl.
talking about-
I'm talking about
actual
DC Comics, Batman's,
But like
yes.
like Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman.
No. What's the one? The one
Zoe Kravitz?
No.
Halle Berry.
No. From Injustice, the video game.
Oh, from Injustice, the video game. That is a sexy Catwoman for
The
sure.
sexy Catwoman. And like,
She has a lesbian character that's not as sexy.
Not as sexy.
But there's versions of that character that are sexy.
yeah, I don't remember which one it is, but that one is what mine like looks like. And so that's the voice that will come up and it's like, it brings family patterns in, particularly through my perception of my mother. That's a whole person. It's a whole individual. It's not, that's the label I've attached to, and I've assigned a whole bunch of meaning and beliefs around. So like, this is how this thing manifests in my unconscious. And so, there's been a lot of interacting with that. And sometimes she's vicious, and sometimes she's cool, and sometimes she's, not. And so when you start to realize, well, this is just like this weird sort of compartmentalized version of yourself that you've given an image so that you can then interact with, you start to dialogue with it, and you start to like try to unionize with it inside instead of trying to seek it in a mate, because it's a weird game to play.
And how do you integrate it? You just talk to it. You talk to that part.
I have a pretty vivid imagination.
Yeah.
And it like, so do you, right?
Yeah.
So you can do that, like it starts to interact with you. And therapy and all these different modalities are trying to get you in touch with that side. The ceremonial magic side, or like that sort of Western theatrical mystery school side, is really dramatic and really creative. And it's
Like dramatic as in like drama was created
Yeah,
as
yeah.
this ritual.
I saw this video of how you would walk up the Temple of Delphi to see the oracle in Greece. And they called it the center of the world, it's like the navel of the world. And as you walked up through the complex, at no point could any visitor ever see that there was a theater behind the whole thing. So behind all the temples was the amphitheater, and you can't see it unless you're allowed into these buildings.
Wow.
So the idea is that music and any of the performance arts
A ritual experience.
are ritualistic, they're part of mystery. And they're
alchemical. I mean, it's so true when we tell stories. It like
They are an original. They are mystery schools.
Yeah.
Which
so they're birthed out of secret temple practices that were meant to create these. You said alchemical. It's the merging of the right and left hemisphere without all the flowery language. They're trying to bring of the brain. So instead of having it being a metronome, tick tock, tick tock, it's now one thing. So it's not master emissary. It's now a unionized thing, and more of the physiology lights up. And there's
the black and the white horse in the black and white horse in the chariot. You're now moving both in the same direction.
the same
as opposed-
hemisphere
as opposed to
integrating.
them trying to go different directions, and you like rolling the corridor.
So Jung figured out that was him being like, oh, there's a union between my anima and me, you know, and he went a little crazy for a while, and like he did a lot of weird stuff in the process. But
yeah,
like,
I mean, he went crazy.
yeah, and then he came back out of it. But like, you know, that's what psychosis looks like.
He stared at the anima, and the anima fucking
Stared
bit back.
Oh damn! Oh man! Oh goddamn! Oh goddamn!
So like, I mean, the first way you start to break family patterns is you choose somebody who's not like your family. And honestly, that's a very
Was that a conscious choice?
I think so.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not like yes.
Yeah. So I'm not like anything like
Wow, because
My father and my father
cool.
is
the best.
He's one of the best men I've ever known in my life.
Yeah.
I find there's so many admirable qualities about him. He has an incredible patience.
Incredible patience.
He has an incredible, especially.
I would be like, hey, so I have this thing in my eye, and I have this like I got bit by a dog.
Sit Susie down, and I was like, stop calling my father
And my brother.
and I found out you're also calling my brother. Please stop.
Both are doctors.
No, I did
You don't,
after
you
years ago. But I was like, I was relying on doctors for a hot minute of just my pure neuro. Like, something's going on. Am I going to die? Like, and I had a full, and so there was a moment when I had a full, oh God, I had a full, like semi-anaphylactic shock of just, my face and everything body just
Before you went to
covered in-
Australia, you mean?
Yeah, before
for
I
the
went-
first time, like your
Yeah.
first Australia shoot.
Yeah. And I was in such a bad way. And I was like, I know. And so I'm just staring at the phone being like, I know Christie said no. But I was like, oh no, what do I do? I don't know. And I was like, I'm kind of panicked. I think I might die. And I was like, okay. And so I should have just texted you because I didn't know. I was like, I was traveling. I was in the middle of a drive, and I was like, I like, what if I'm dying? And I thought it felt like a very, because my tongue started swelling and my throat started. So I was kind of like, is this a serious situation?
Yeah. By the way, if you're like, my throat's swelling, can I call your father? I'd be like, yes, call my fucking father.
But then, so I just did it, and you're like, really, Susie? Like, you just, which was the point of like, yeah, if that was the point, like, just say that. But after that, I have
But
not.
how we're different though. Like for instance, today we were sitting at a restaurant and there was a rip in the wicker in the chair, and so the back part of the chair was kind of like poking me. So I just got up and moved the chair, and he was looking at me like, "What's going on?" And I go, "There's a rip in the chair. Now it's somebody else's problem." And he would never think to do that, and I was saying it as a joke, but he just would never think to do that.
Yeah.
But my dad would like buy the chair and like
He'd be
take it home.
I'm going to take this chair to the upholsterer and fix it. I got this taken care of for you.
Not my chair, not my problem.
Yeah.
5643. You're right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Balloon Hands.
Mr. Balloon Hands.
But I will.
I've been waiting for that joke for
Nailed
this
it.
entire podcast.
I actually don't get the joke.
There's a guy on acid. The thing I'll show you later.
So they put a lizard. Can you pull this up,
You not
Tanner?
Yep.
You got to pull this up.
Yep.
It's so good.
On my chair, not my problem. That's what I always say. Drinking out of cups.
Drinking out of cups.
5, 6, 4, 3.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
you
right.
just draw that Superman symbol.
I might have. Yeah.
Drinking out of cups.
Drinking out of cups.
Think she's Miss Sand, drinking out of cups, being a bitch.
Well, what is this?
This guy's
He's on an
that-
acid trip.
He's on an acid.
Wait, hold on.
Pat our school, pat a little kid in the background, fucking going crazy. Who's this guy, Mr. Balloon?
Mr. Balloon Hands.
Balloon Hands. No way, no way. Get real,
Like,
like those things.
God, I love that guy that says
Mr.
no way.
Walkway. Mr. Walk down me, I'm the walkway. Lead me to the building. Fuck you. 5, 6, 4, 3. Yeah, right. You some stupid bitch. Who paid for that floor? Me. No way. Never pay for no floor ever again. Not once, not never. Whose chair is that? Who brought that goddamn chair here? It's not my chair. Not my chair, not my problem. That's what I say. No way.
This is ridiculous. We'll edit this.
We always were.
No way.
No way.
No
yeah, right.
way.
Yeah, right.
5, 6, 4, 3. Yeah, right. Not my chair, not my problem. That's what I say.
But I will say that it felt like I could feel after we got married that I was leaving the like safety of a family pattern of some sort, and like it was very scary. All of a sudden, I did feel like I was out on a limb with this soul that like I had no real context for before. You know what I mean? Like that was a part of the experience.
So scary.
It was. It was.
And I feel like that is scarier because the devil you know is a lot like scarier of the devil you don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, for sure. But
And even though like this could be, I mean, like it is, but like when you're in the process of that, you're thinking like, what if this is so much worse than, you know, leaving everything behind that you once knew?
yeah, and like where the fuck are we going?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I think that the thing with marriage that was so scary is also like there's a safety to it, right? It's like, well, you know what it's like. I think the reason marriage was unappealing to me is because like I feel like there's a part of you that decides like this was my impression of a lot of people in marriage, was that like there was a part of you that stayed stunted or like you didn't get to be explored because you were like in this relationship with this one person. And I feel like for whatever reason, not marrying into a family pattern dynamic, like kind of, that's not really an option, even if you wanted it to be one, you know, and like you don't want it to be one, but there are times when it feels scary that it's not an option to just like play the comfort of what you know.
Yeah, just the repetition.
Yeah.
I know how this goes, and I do that. But at the same time, like I respected you too much, and I respect you too much to like play my family pattern out.
What do you think that's the most important thing in a relationship is trust and respect?
It is certainly an important element.
Yeah.
to it.
I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's going to be individual, and you know it's based off of like what you value. You know, so each relationship is going to.
And what do you value in this in your relationships?
I made decisions around 2012 that I knew where I was going was kind of going to be okay, but like not going to be that fulfilling in the long term. And I was just going to keep doing the thing that was sort of cyclical in the family. And I wanted to be able to look beyond the veil. I wanted to know more about the mystery of what we are and who we are and where we came from and where we're going as a species. And I knew that she was the best choice for me to be on that path with. And actually, you would be guiding me more on the path most of the time. You know, I'll be like, how do you send this text or whatever?
Half the time. Same. She's we're cosmic brother and sister.
there has been more than one time he's like, can you stop dealing with Susie? I need you to look at my email.
Yeah. 100%. We're always,
And
I think that's why we threw up and we're like, cosmic brother and sister.
Too close. Too close.
Yeah.
And so I knew that was going to be more important than anything that like, because you know my family line was rough. You know, they've had like a rough go of things, and like everybody has, right?
Sure.
So a lot of the ways that they would self-soothe would be pretty destructive on, especially the kids. You know, and so it's just like what they did, what was done. You know, and it's easy to do that. But it doesn't work out very well. You know, it's not like a long-term thing. It does stunt you, and it does keep you at like 15. You know, you sort of stay at that imprint where you don't really ever mature. So you might be looking, you might look 50 or 60 or whatever, but you're actually a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how a lot of people are. Like, and alcohol and certain things can like bring that out with a lot of people. But like, you know, I got really recently into reading about Timothy Leary's his 8th circuit model of the brain, and a lot of people know about Timothy Leary because he got into LSD and he was a big part of the counterculture movement in the 60s. But he was like a Harvard psychology professor, and like a damn good one.
Drop in, drop out.
Yeah.
So wait, tune in, drop out. Wait, tune out. Tune. What was it? What was his thing? Tanner? Tune in, drop out. I think that was it. Yeah, tune in, drop out. Yeah.
Anyway, so he had the idea that he worked out was that we have these 4 circuits that are sort of there, and the first one is a biosecurity circuit, and it's developed by the mother in the relationship with the child. And so, like, you think about that, it's like obvious, you know, the mom is the main source of security for that baby while it's getting up, you know, off the ground. The next one he calls the anal emotional circuit.
Oh,
and that one's really the father in a lot of ways. And I think this is really interesting because it was alluded that like Jehovah, you know, being a storm god, he kind of loosely made this association with like, because it's an anal emotional circuit, there's like this farting component to this thunder god, which I always thought was really funny because it's kind of Zeus. It's
Alana would love that.
Yeah. But there's this quality about it. And I noticed how, like, now that I have a little one, I noticed that I've had a pattern that will spiral up where I can hear it. It's not my voice. It's some ancient voice that's just been passed down. And you can be like, oh, Dad, but it's Dad didn't get it. He got it from his imprint.
Yeah.
And there's this, you're not going to treat me that way. You know, this is in my kind of domain thing. And I'm like, oh, that's so gross. So, you know, you have to start reframing or sort of doing what's called, he calls metaprogramming, where you sort of rewrite the script that will run. The next one becomes it's the semantic circuit. So it's how you manipulate the world with words or with technique or skill. And then the 4th one is your moral circuit. Mm-hmm. So that's the image that you present when you're at the picket fence to the neighbors. You know, like that's that outer world, how you interface with it and how you want other people to perceive you. Some people have it really good in the home and really bad outside, or some people will do really good outside and then it'll be crazy inside because you can't really get rid of the things that you're trying to avoid. You can just compartmentalize them. And then you put choices. I love when you said this because you're like, I was in this class and I sort of fibbed on a test. And I went inside and I was like, I'm fucking bad about it. And she goes, you made their opinion of how of you more important than getting the work right. And I was like,
more important than you're learning.
More important than you're learning. Yeah. That's a better way to say that.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, like, that's a learned thing really young, you know, this like duty to perform. I had this whole idea when I was coming on the podcast, was like, I'm going to do really good for Susie. You know? And I had this image.
No, this is a riveting. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, honestly, like, because it's like, oh.
On my chin.
Like, I mean, like, it's already like almost like 2 hours and this feels like it's been 5.
Cool.
Minutes, not hours.
Yeah.
But this idea of duty to perform, you know, like that's been a big part of, I think.
Also being an actor.
Being an artist, yeah.
Being an artist.
You want to be perceived as somebody who's got the shit together. And like most of the time it like took me 15 years to figure out how to memorize scripts.
Oh God.
You know, and so it was
terrible.
like literally a year before I moved, I figured out my way of doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, well, fuck. Having lines in auditions that I would go up on it and get nervous and pull, you know, like, you know, retreat in the audition. And you're like, you know, it wasn't until I figured out my process on how to do it, you know. So, but it doesn't really matter because that time is not wasted. You know, this is the journey that we're on. So in terms of breaking patterns, it's a choice. Like, everything is a choice.
Like a conscious choice constantly, and just be like, you know, did the pattern. Okay.
Yeah. You can stay in the mud. You can stay in an eddy current. You know, the way the river runs, there will be these, you know, features that water will interact with. And sometimes, because we watch rivers now a lot, we'll be fishing and you'll literally see the water like moving backwards. And you're like, the river's all going one way, except for this one area right here, because it's interacting with this log under, or the way that the bank turns. And it's just, the current's going upstream. You're like, how's that possible? Well, life is like that.
Yeah.
You know, so you can go with the flow or you can battle against it and have resistance and deal with all the turmoil that goes with it.
Surrender, Dr. Strange.
But don't surrender to the patterns that you don't want to be living.
No, but
in
surrender
anymore.
to use the current. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I was
Yeah,
in
no,
my
no,
mind.
no. But
Yeah.
it's
To use
it's
the energy.
complicated. Like
It's a complicated analogy.
yeah.
But,
You
You have the courage to go for your own values. You know,
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
the courage to be your own person. Have the courage to, you know, not live your life by somebody else's expectation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll say like one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite metaphors when we started dating and we hadn't moved in together yet. We were still at the very first place, your very first place.
Oh, that one.
We were running and, you know, we've talked about like I can run for very long periods of time. And I noticed that, especially like, you know, for male athletes, that wasn't really ever an issue. But like I was now in LA and we weren't.
Not everybody is as good as you. I guess.
Anyway, we were running and all of a sudden, like he was slowing down. He wasn't going to be able to keep up. And I started slowing down so I could like catch up with him. And before I could slow down, he sprinted to catch up to me and pushed me forward so that I would keep going on my
At her pace.
journey at
Yeah.
my pace.
I love that.
And I was like,
that's so beautiful. What a beautiful metaphor. I
And
mean,
I-
that's so like,
and I
sorry,
was in like from that point on, I was like, that had never happened to me before with a man,
Yeah.
that feeling. And I think that like we'll get stuck sometimes, like we'll like lose sight of the bigger picture occasionally. And that's when like fighting will happen or like these harder times will come in. But we always come back to the point of like, I see you, I love you, what's best for you. And more than like, we're married, we need to like do this thing. Because I think that it's dead right when you do that.
That's
Okay,
that's a fiction. You're
I
living
need to talk about this because this is like a big theme that I think a lot of people do, including myself, that I had to kind of look at of like letting go, like, you know, having to let go and allow them to, you know, the free will and to be them exactly like as they are and not, you know, because you can fall in love with
your own ideas.
your own ideas, which is like, you have this whole idea, which is when we met. You were like, you have all these ideas. And wait, what was it in America Goes to Therapy with Sunshine, the character Sunshine in the, do you remember?
Oh no, it was a good line though.
It was such a good line.
but I don't remember it.
But
Sorry.
basically it was, you know, you have all your ideas and fantasies wrapped up into this that have nothing to do with me, which is, I think like a lot of us, or we can fall in love with the potential. I literally heard this from a guy that
You fall in love with your projection.
right.
Yeah.
And so like, instead of the actual person, and something that, there was a very whirlwind romance that I was in that I had to, even though I was like really wanting to be like you and allowed to have that freedom, and it was still really, really scary. But then there was a moment where I was like, maybe like having sex like too soon kind of thing. And in more of like, okay, well, we're going to be bonded. And then sort of like solidifying that, you know, kind of making it like more concrete of like,
Well,
boyfriend, girlfriend. And so like, then I had to be like, damn it. I did a thing. Like, even if it was like a little, like for the most part, I was not doing that. I was doing what you did. But then I think there was just a small part of me that was like, let's lock it in, you know? And then I think by the locking it in of, you know, trying to make it official.
The attempting to use sex to chain somebody to your soul
It's
forever.
terrible. Yeah. No, but it wasn't, this was
With
not a
vagina
conscious,
handcuffs.
this is, oh my God, this is another guy that we know. He was like, no, it's a pussy trap. Is our mutual friend, will blurp out. Like, so when we were getting like, when we were dating and we had some intimate moments and he's like, nope, it's a pussy trap. It's a pussy. He was like trying to run away. He's like, it's a pussy trap. I can't. No. And which you also said about being at the cause and effect, you know, you're like, I don't want it. Ugh. So, because I think also I was very clear about what I wanted in this whirlwind of like, hey, I don't want to do this unless we're really doing this, unless we're like really exploring something. And we're, you know, I don't want to do this unless it's in the container of like boyfriend, girlfriend, because that doesn't feel safe for me, you know? And so what I should have said is like, you can leave at any time and like you do you. And like, that's like sort of like having the free will of like, it could end literally after this. But
I think I talk about this a lot with women because I think we're we're in a pretty heavy, like, it feels natural and the only thing to do to have casual sex. And I truly, when I was having casual sex, which I don't think, I wouldn't do it again the way that I did it. But I didn't expect anything in.
Because you would have a lot of muse experiences, like of casual sex, but they would be it wouldn't just be casual sex. It would be like you would see all of their soul. Yeah. Like to be more articulate, you would like see all of them and then you'd both be like, okay, like that's it.
See you later.
That was fun.
Or it would happen for like a weekend, or it would happen for like several weeks. And then,
but I think that like there's a big thing in like dating coaching now where they'll be like, you need to set your boundaries and like tell them what it is you need to, like, we can't have sex.
To assert your value. So it's all about asserting your value.
But all of a sudden you're giving your value. You're like, hey, we don't know each other that well, but I trust you to hold my values and to never break my values.
That's crazy.
Even though we're not even together yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's insane. Like if you.
That violates pirate code.
Yeah. Which the dating world is definitely pirate code.
It's pirate code.
And so like my thing is.
It's really more of a guideline.
So my thing is, if you do need to know it's secure before you have sex, which I think is a very appropriate thing for a woman to want.
And nothing's safe. Like even in that container, nothing is ever safe,
right.
Ever.
But,
like you signed up for the game of life. It's just not going to be safe.
Yeah, like
especially if you're living.
A poem I wrote for our friend Grace.
Doesn't matter if you're dead. You're living. Not safe.
But fully living your life, it's dangerous. It just is.
Yeah.
But like making good judgment calls and being very like intentional with dating.
I mean, I still don't give my values over to Robert to hold. They're not his.
Yeah.
They're not his to hold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got his own that he has to hold. And we wouldn't be together if they weren't aligned.
Mm-hmm. And they are?
Yeah, our values.
Yeah. And what are your values?
Understanding the mysteries of the universe. You know, I mean, that's like
art,
a huge
it was
one.
Like, wasn't it truth, art, truth and beauty?
Yeah. I mean, the mysteries of the universe is understanding the higher truths, the higher beauties. Like we're all about that. And like,
it's one of my highest values. That's why we're friends.
There is like even before we started going into a psychedelic phase with one another, there was like a cosmic feeling about meeting one another. And I think that that's why it's been, by the way, like I had to fight tooth and nail with whatever like ancient family patterns of mine came up after we get married to not make the marriage the most important thing. Like it was a fight of my life to do so. It was very challenging for me to do so. And like a year into our marriage, I remember you being like, hey, like I was like so scared we were going to lose it. Like still, like I was even fight this fear and it was like bleeding into our relationship. He's like, you can't make me that important for you. And I was like, I know, but I'm really struggling with it. Like I'm really, really struggling with it. And, you know, like I would be obviously, and that's the other thing with love that's so interesting is like.
And that's a very like common female thing to do, you know, to make your partner the most important thing. And then there's all this pressure and expectation attached to that, right?
You know, well, we're the ones that bear the child. And like if something happens, like we're the ones that kind of like there's reasons for it, but they're not good ones. Like they're not going to make your life better to hold on to those, right? Like those are fear, anxiety, insecurity things. Damn, I had something that was interesting that I wanted to say. I lost it. Patterns,
the family patterns that you had to fight like hell. About basically like when you would have these, the minute that if you tried to hold on to it too tight, it would die instantly.
I remember like I would be devastated if something happened to us. Like most of me would not survive, but there's a part of me that would. And when you fall in love, I almost feel like you hate that part of yourself that could survive it, you know, like that could survive the death of a child, the death of your great love. Like it's almost like blasphemy that it exists within you, but it has to exist within you or else you can't carry yourself when you need to be carried because somebody else can't carry you.
Yeah. No, but but the conversations that I've had that you've taught me so much is just how able you are to be like allow Bobs and myself and everyone just to be themselves and then just love them like like we're all trying to, truth and beauty, like, be better constantly all the time. But what you're really good at is just like allowing this free space where you're not holding on or this expectation. Because I think when I recently had like sort of this expectation and I'm like, you're killing it. Like this is now I know what this looks like. And because, I've gone on this journey of when I've like not done it at all, or I've like held on too tight and trying to find the balance of kind of embodying what you guys do. And yeah, recently when that moment sort of happened for me where it was sort of like, well, I love like this potential of who you are. And I was like, bye. Like it just, you can't, you have such a great potential. But I'm like, we're not, you're holding on, you're having all this expectation and you're putting all this, you're putting that in front of like me or like who you are. And like, let's just see if this works and we're even a match together versus like all this, stuff that has nothing to do with me.
Because also usually when someone says that, then like they're hoping that you can help them fulfill their own potential, which is a really dangerous thing to put on somebody else.
It's so, that's what's so interesting about the second circuit idea. You like unpack that. It's your, and that's why Zeus or Jehovah are like not great leaders for the people.
The God
that
of
follow.
Thunder. Literally the fart that comes out of
that cracks out of the crack that comes out of the mountain. Yeah.
The beyond.
So I mean, you're now living your life and your value and your expectation now is superimposed onto everybody else.
Yeah.
And if they don't fulfill it, they get
That's
swallowed
crazy.
by the earth. Like the hole opens up and they all go down. That's what happens when you let that circuit run out of balance. And it's like not a cool way to live life. It's a really moralistic and it's not sexy.
No, it's not sexy. It's not sexy.
And I think we got to a point too, like, we laughed and we sorted ourselves out. And then I think we got to a point, like, I still get scared sometimes that if one of us becomes super successful out in the world, that we're not going to make it. It does still scare me. And I'm like, but we've gotten to a point where I'm like, and when I say be successful out in the world, I mean in the ways that I believe that we're here meant to be doing what we're meant to be doing, right? Not just like winning the Wall Street game or whatever.
The tumble dryer full of money.
Right. But I think it was like, I got to a point where I was like, if we don't continue to feed that part of ourselves that I do think is so important to this lifetime's journey, our love will still die. Like it's already dead. Again, it's already dead. So like, I don't know what the future holds, but like him being the best version of himself, even if it's not with me, is more important than him being with me. It has to be.
Yeah.
And same.
That's what I was trying to get to, is that's the most beautiful thing. Like you're pushing her from behind, like to make sure that she doesn't slow down and she keeps going.
Crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, do you know what's also interesting is every time that
we're not doing phrasing anymore.
We're not doing phrasing anymore. Nobody told me.
But I feel I feel the same, because I'm not trying to ask you to slow down. I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Like when you'll get to a realization and it'll always be like 6 months further than me. And I'll always be, now I feel like I've got caught up in a lot of ways. Like I think my mom's death has really kind of sped things up, of having like really extreme, when those extreme moments happen, you get all these downloads if you use it. If you use all this,
it's a tool.
It's a tool. So when something terrible happens or a tragedy, you can use it, and you can use it to be better. And so yeah, like I think that's like so cool that like I'm just always, both of us are always being like, we need to catch up. We don't want you to like, slow down, just keep going.
I mean, I feel that way also with both of you at different aspects. Like like all of my friendships, I think all of our friendships really are based off of wanting
Utility.
Yeah, utility to continue to live an inspired life, so like when you do well, I'm really fucking excited for you. You know what I mean?
You honestly, it's so beautiful. Like the amount of, you were so championing me doing this, and you were like, this didn't make sense before, like why you were, not doing this the entire time. Yeah, you've championed, like, just been my biggest supporter of just everything I've ever done. Like, that's because it's one thing, you've always been there in my worst moments every single time when, lose everything in a fire, my mom dies, going through a breakup, some death, whatever it is, like, you're right there helping me through it. And then also, like, I think real friends. What is real friendship to you guys?
Well, I don't know that this is going to answer the question, but to piggyback off what you were just saying, there's a lot of like guys and women who want to have the hero syndrome. So like they'll be there for your worst moments, but they're not going to be there for your best moments.
They're not going to be there for the best moments.
Yeah.
So that's not, and Jordan Peterson talks about this, that if they can't be there, they can only be in one aspect. That's not a real friend.
Yeah.
They have to be able to be there for both, for championing your wins and your losses. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think friendship is a different version of love. I mean, they're all like, it is love. So it's, I mean, I guess we could say being there for somebody in their best and their worst, and really loving them for who they are as much as you can, and not putting your own expectation on them.
And you can do that. I think you can do that to the degree that you could do that to yourself.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, because like with both of you, I say this to people all the time. Like, both of you guys were so wildly open that, like, me with my barbed wire shell, like you guys, you climbed the fence. You know what I mean?
We totally did. I literally metaphorically twice climbed the fence.
Yeah, and Robert just like walked through. He was.
Oh yeah. I had to do it.
There's a gate.
He was just like, hello.
There's a opening the gates. Yeah. We should talk about that some way. If anybody's in a marriage having some issues with sex, you should look at opening the 3 gates.
Whoa. Okay, we need to get into this. I need to pee real fast.
Okay,
we need
yeah,
a break for a second, because I think we normally
Everybody's
do
got
a
a
quick
pee?
break. Yeah.
Pizza.
Oh.
We can roll right through.
Really?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pee anyway.
All right.
Here.
And we're back.
Now we're back. How has marriage changed your view of dating? Because I know you guys were very different people when you started, and where you are now is such a different place that you said that if anything were to ever happen, you would be very different people, like, approaching it.
Well, I'll say, like, I never really felt like I was in the dating pool. Do you know what I mean? Like, I never, like, I got on the dating apps a little bit right before I met Bob's, but like,
Oh, I was so bad at it. I tried it like for like a couple months, and I was like, so bad at
I
it.
said I wouldn't have like casual sex again, which is not the same thing as dating for me. But I understand there's like a correlation there. I didn't meet anybody. Like, my big pops, my lovers, like, were not dating experiences. They were just.
I never knew his name.
Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't dating. It was just, it was an experience that would happen. And I kind of stayed out of the dating game because I think it's a shitty game. And so
Yeah.
I don't know that my ideas about dating would change. I do think, like,
Your relationships with people.
and like with sex,
Yeah.
it has changed a lot.
And how has it changed? Because now I've heard, you told me, well, I've heard, Jesus Christ, where am I? Am I on The View? It's so ridiculous.
Go
on. Inquiring minds. It's so ridiculous. Jesus Christ. You were saying that you had the best sex of your life recently, like, and you guys were having great sex.
I would not go back to the sex from the very first days, although that was total magic. Like, I mean, sex is a total reflection of where you are with someone, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper into layers. And sometimes that's hard because you run into stuff that, like, I had some sexual traumas young. Robert's had some tough sexual experiences. Like, like
We've all had it. Yeah, we've all
of us.
Fucking A.
Everyone. Like,
Yeah.
It's not even important. It's there for all of us.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's challenging because especially when you have a lot of responsibilities together, and you know, and then you start getting, like, hitting this hard part within yourself sexually, like, it sucks. But then when
We're not doing phrasing. Sorry.
we already established we're not doing it.
Okay.
I've already told you. You've been told.
They don't notice.
But then when you break through them, like, you break through, and then you go into these deeper and deeper levels of consciousness within the sex experience.
Like emotionally, spiritually, physically. Like I've had experiences before where it's on every single level and I can never go back to just like, you know, you just.
Yeah. And I think sex, like with a
it's like
relationship,
a soul bond. Like it's like a full, like you're talking to God, you're communing with God. And when you've had those experiences, you're like, I can't go back to just, you know, like whatever. Like rough and I don't know, like or just like,
or even if it's great first time sex, it is still first time sex. You know what I mean? Like there's like
it's a more of a superficial getting to know each other's like bodies and like, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I the idea of like starting over with somebody in any level like is not overly exciting for me. Like I can understand that like I joke that he was like having an affair with this like Discord group that he's been a part of. But I don't mean it like in a bad way.
No, it's
but
funny. It's a funny bit.
Yeah. He's like 4 months in and he's like, it's kind of over.
Kind of stalling.
Yeah, I'm kind of over it.
Really?
Yeah.
You're over it?
Yeah. At a certain point, it's kind of repetitive.
And yeah, I think I know that they're like to have something very fresh and exciting. Like there could be something fun about that for a while, but like the actual gains of what you're getting spiritually from that and like overall, like that not like you always will have to go through the work, in my opinion, to like get through deeper with a soul, whoever it is that you meet.
Yep.
You know, like there's always going to be whatever the relationship between you two, there will be a friction and like a something that's hard to move through. It doesn't matter who.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know. I'm happy doing it with Bob's. You know what I mean? Like I don't need like some young guy not knowing all my shit, being like, you're awesome.
You're like, thanks, I know.
Yeah, I'm like, thanks, I know. And
Yeah.
he knows better. You know what I mean?
So it's just fascinating because it's like, it's probably not common. What? 444. This is not, like something like I listen to so many podcasts and, you know, they're not talking about they're still having great sex after like 10 years or whatever. And they have to, I mean, what they do talk about is you're continually evolving and becoming a new person and you're letting the old part of you die off. So it's like you're evolving constantly. So it's like for men, they get to be with somebody new all the time because you guys are growing together, you know, but I think that that's just really fascinating because I think, you know, I'm just wondering in terms of when I just hear a lot of guys talk, it's like they're not maybe, I mean, from maybe your standpoint of view, is it they're just not willing to go deeper?
I think I can speak for myself, right? So I grew up in a situation where being, you know, kind of third, fourth down the line of a lot of sexual traumas or improper relationships with sex. And so there were only certain outlets that I gave myself permission to go through, which were like porn and then as I got older.
And you stopped watching porn like years ago.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I had to. It got bad. So
because it's rampant. Every man out there is watching porn and like dating.
Yeah.
It's kind of a turnoff for me because
I was talking to somebody last night.
I stopped watching porn, which is like, you know,
I was talking
everything.
to somebody last night about it, and he was like, you know, it kind of now is like, you know, it just sort of like numbs it. So he's like, so I saw a girl on the thong on the beach, and it's sort of like, whatever. And I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to be how it is. You know what I mean? Like that feels like decadence.
Yeah.
And decadence is sort of like, you know, it doesn't work out well. So it doesn't quite.
The fall of Rome didn't really end well.
Yeah. Luxury and decadence are not the same.
Yeah. I mean, luxury is the pursuit of light. Decadence is sort of like, you know,
there's a huge movie star who's just like over everything. Like has, you know, I've heard more, whatever, it doesn't matter. But like basically that everything is boring because he just.
Oh God, I'm so bored with these blowjobs.
My boobs are boring.
That is the weirdest video I've ever seen. But you become obsessed with now chasing this thing, it's less and less each time.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I mean? Like so now
for porn, right? That's what they say.
But then
yeah.
even everything else, you know, like,
yeah.
And, you know, at a certain point, you know, the cats aren't. You got to eat the cats. You know, like you know, you know, like I was like the cats, right? So
you're at Army Hammer.
Oh yeah. You become a cannibal.
Yeah, because it's not enough to do like the casual thing.
Yeah.
You know? And so
because you're not going deep enough anyway, because it's still an avoidance of intimacy, right? And that's the scary place. That is the like dangerous of merging yourself, I think, you know.
There's we watched that Bundy doc. Remember they kept talking about the demon that would come over him when he would get into his like modes. And so the psychologist figured out how he's smart enough to not answer questions. But if he could get him to like try a hat on, and then this being would emerge, and that's in all of us. You know, that octopus character, like that's one of these tentacles.
I like to think that that energy exists in this realm, and like it's like one that can play and enter into any of us.
But like with that, so that column,
just don't let him in. Don't
that column of light and that octopus. Those are the two polarities that there's a string that we are you're being plucked, you know, and you play the note that is you, right? But the frets in the bottom and the top of the string, like that's what the two extremes are. So if you play that chord, it comes in. If you play the other chord, it comes in. You know, we have both of these things inside of us, or access to it anyway.
But I will say also, like you can't just kill those energies, right? Like the sex energy. I mean, we're in a sex universe, and it's like to kill
man loud
to kill the masculine drive, to kill the feminine drive is also like bad news bears. You know what I mean? Like I don't think the relationship lasts very well either doing that. So it is always
it's the strength card in tarot, right? Like she lets the lion lays down. You know, the virgin. But she
doesn't slay the lion. You know, she tames it. She knows how to utilize it.
I feel like you guys did that for each other.
Yeah.
You softened each other's edges for sure.
And like we both had to all the energies he was talking about, like the darker energies that were in him, like we went through that together, and all of the dark energies within me that I equally had, like we went through that together, and it is scary and painful and weird. And sometimes I remember, God, sometimes I feel like we would have like we would go through the same fight for like months until we could like
get to the root of it.
Yeah, because there's the important fights that you have aren't like, there's a reason you're having them, right? It's not an easy problem to solve when you're merging your souls. Like it's not, you know what I mean? It's not like there's a friction that you need to understand and discuss. And there'd be so many times when I'm like, I don't want to fight right now. Like I want to just watch a movie or like have good sex or like go eat pizza or whatever.
Pizza
you're like,
and sex?
Pizza and sex. But you're like, but you know, you slowly start making decisions. Like when you decide not to have the fight so you can watch the movie, I'm like, that ends up starting to get buried and like that accumulates over time. And then all of a sudden, like,
yeah, I did that in my relationship. Like I basically, you know,
because you're like I
pop some Xanax and like try to like, because also I was willing to get punched in the face and have the hard conversation, but I think like it was just too hard or it was too much sometimes. So you needed a willing partner, which is what you have.
You weren't willing to leave.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to leave. Yeah, and I like that was my codependence. But how do you guys fight? Like how is because like you guys just
yeah, I mean to answer that question that I feel so answered it like I do think that I don't know if there's one soul or I don't know if there's a bunch of souls that make us up, but it's somewhere in there. Whatever that is, there's an immortal thing that is working towards it's got a teleos, it's got some sort of end in mind. It was created to accomplish a task or a goal or get to some becoming to, you know, there's a place where becoming ends. And Susie and Robert and Chris, these are fictions, right? These are just sort of like
that's what Jim Carrey talks about.
These are characters that are tetrahedron. Yeah. So these are characters of a self dancing for itself, right? Like, and the good news is that it will do it, and it doesn't matter what you do here. Like in the big picture, if this round doesn't get it right, like some other version of this will manifest. You know, you break the cell phone. Your number isn't lost. You just get a new body, and then you can get your text again.
Yeah.
Right. So
somehow it's in the cloud.
Because love and wisdom is what's conserved. Love and wisdom is what is being reserved in the sun in some dimension that we don't fully understand, but that's there. This is transient. This will ash to ash. So that's the kind of the first thing. If you want to do it now, then good for you. And if you don't, cool. You know, it's like whatever.
Also good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I really like this thing that I heard Rudolf Steiner say once. He had this idea that we live in these like rounds or epochs is what he called them. So we're like in the 5th or something. I don't know. It's complicated.
You and the word
Yeah.
epoch. That's what you have to do.
Whatever it is.
It's another Rick and Morty reference, which I love.
He had this idea that in the previous one, which was on Old Moon or something, like it was in some other version of what we know as this Earth, there were only 12 patterns that did it right. So out of 8 billion potential patterns, there was 12 that got it right. And
Christ?
No,
Jesus.
we now understand them as Michael and Gabriel and Uriel, and these are these characters.
The angels.
It's just there's certain patterns of wisdom and intelligence that make up they're named that in the Judeo-Christian West ideas, but they're there. And so there were only 12 that got it right, and the rest of them just got chucked. You're like, so self tried that many times and 12 were worthy or whatever.
Damn.
That's intense to think about it. You think about, so you're like, it's, I don't want to be glib about it and be like, your actions don't matter. Because I don't know. I think that it kind of does, but in some bigger sense, it doesn't. But if you want to play in a game that is like, you know what? I actually want to like, see what the next level looks like.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. That's what we're doing. We're playing that game. Like that's
King Koopa is the boss of this world. You beat the King Koopa, and maybe Mario goes to the second video game. You know what I mean? Whatever. Like you get to
that was almost really good.
It's almost King Koopa's there. He's got the cat.
Yeah.
Do you eat it? So if you want to do that, if you want to choose that, then I think that the thing that I thought was made the most sense to me was that what you're interacting with or what you've experienced is your drama, is your fuel that hasn't been converted. So if you can figure out how to reframe that, and the easiest or the clearest one is gratitude for it. It happened. So how did it benefit me?
Yeah.
If it was something that, this is a good thing. So
Martini.
How did it make it my life? How did it fuel me towards on my way to, how did it serve my values? How did it make me into what I am in a way that I can appreciate? And then once you can do that, you start to think about it differently. You run different scripts, and it gets into like different, maybe you want to call it meta programming. There's different ways to describe it. But like one of my favorite meta programs that we just heard in this book that Robert Anton Wilson wrote was, because a lot of people will be like, nobody likes me. I feel like the world's against me, right? Like that's like a common thing that like paranoid people will have, and it's easy to be paranoid. But he has this one which he's like, everybody likes me, and
everything's working out for me.
Actively helping me accomplish my goals, and everything that I'm doing in my life is going to work out better than I can even imagine. Or John DeMartini has one which is the universe is my playground, the world is my home, and every other country is a room in my house. So
we say that we have our daughter says this all the time. We have her say it because
you're going to install.
Well, and I think we both. I think everybody with with COVID and the pandemic, we kind of got afraid of the world a little bit, like going out into the world.
I was afraid before that, though. I mean, you remember, like I had this fear that a video would surface of me talking shit about a friend, and I would just go. I got drunk on this plane once coming home from this job that I had a really tough time with, and I fucking vented, and I got wasted with this other actor and just vented at full volume. And I remember looking over my sholdder and I was like, I'm talking like it's just you and me, right? And
I'm just talking some serious shit.
And I looked over the shoulder and but I wasn't doing it like I was actually applying my full analysis to it. Like it wasn't just venting.
It wasn't measured. It was sort of like
it wasn't measured.
It wasn't
measured.
Without measure, but I was being like, look, that it means this and it's attached to, there's all of this stuff in it. And so like it wasn't completely reckless other than the fact that I did it publicly. Or, I acted like I wasn't in public is what I mean to say. And about 6 hours later, I realized what had happened. I got home And I was like, and panicked because I was like, it wouldn't take nothing to do that.
Is this when I drove home from
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
bachelor?
I was
drove
like, you
home
need to
in
come
the
home.
middle of the night from a bachelorette party
I was like, I'm
in
losing it.
San Francisco because he was like, I'm not well. And I was like, I can tell you're not well. I'm coming home. And I was like, I had been drinking. I had to stop drinking and like get a cup of coffee. Like it was like,
And all of this stuff was said. Remember I was talking about like, I got bitten by this, like being really reckless with this, acting sort of magic thing that I was playing with that kind of turned pretty black or like dark.
Yeah.
This was then the next 6 months was just like living in a mental like prison. It was like really, really dark. And it would be weird. I would just like wake up in the shower and I'd been in there for 45 minutes and it's just like living in this tormented prison by some sort of demon that I created. Some sort of
like he lost a patch of his
I
hair.
had a patch of hair fall out, and Crowley had said, he goes, if it falls out, it's not coming back, and it came back, which was bizarre. Like I even we went to an acupuncturist, and he started doing
Dr. Cho crushes.
Dr. Cho does.
Yeah.
I said, you walk in, he goes, oh, I want to help you. Okay. It's so delightful, and it came back, which was kind of unique. But
also it's what's kind of funny is that we think, people care. No one cares. Like, I think, it's like whatever drama we think it's like, even if it's, like there was a huge thing that happened for, this actor and it was a big thing. Doesn't matter. But like, basically it's like, it'll blow over. It'll be business as usual. Like that actor like said some colorful things, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so like immediately, it was completely, no one cares. Like people have their own problems, their own lives. Like we're all human, it's like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like people, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
But that's what I feel like. That's what
Emile Hirsch choked the producer at that party and Emile Hirsch choked the producer at the
oh my
festival.
God.
And then like a couple years later, he was in movies again. And I was like,
no one cares.
What?
No one cares.
He choked her. He put his hands around her neck. It was like, you did. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's back. Yeah. So I understand that, but like,
but when it's happening to you, it feels so, intense.
Yeah.
And
I think that kind of is constant. I think that's like, I had 400 no's my first year before I got my first job. And the weird part was I had to tell myself that was a big accomplishment to get that many opportunities.
It is a big accomplishment. I've never had 400 no's in my life still.
I understand that, but like that's when the negative self-talk really started to manifest. Because you're like going through like consistent and repetitive rejection. And it's kind of hard to keep picking it up pushing the stone back up the hill.
Totally.
And so it was a really
Sisyphus. You just feel like Sisyphus the whole time.
Yeah. But that was a
I'm like, damn it, not again. I'm gonna push it up. Damn it.
Yeah. And that was a really big part of that was what really started that all happened before we left, and I was like, I'm not doing this for the right reason. And if I did have success with it, by God, I couldn't deal with it. Like 10 people looking at me right now, you know? I would just freak out. So I was like, we need to take a break.
You go hang out in the woods for a little
and
while.
we went to the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, I listened to some people that really inspired some ideas but they became really our own. I feel
like the woods really
homesteading.
changed everything for you. Like farming, how to orient yourself, like govern these animals and have like a quality life and have balance. Like you're learning
you
balance.
You can't really ever understand society and government until you have goats.
So listen to this.
Until you have goats.
Listen to this. So I'm like smoking some weed and I'm astral projecting and I'm like, I suddenly had the realization. I was like, wow, they're sorting themselves out and they're learning to govern themselves on this land by themselves with these animals. And I like called you and I was like, I had this ephany of why you did it. And I had all these downloads and I was like, oh my God, I was, that it felt right.
Go. The goats are out.
You had a favorite goat though, Taika, wasn't it?
Taika was, I love that goat in the beginning. And she just became a regular goat.
Yeah, I mean, we rotational graze, so we move the animals daily or every other day, depending on how big the deaths are. And once the goats, they're just not the best animals to rotationally graze. That once they get out, they are always getting out. And also they were terrible to milk. I milked 2 different ones, and they were awful. And we weren't getting enough milk out of them. They were holding it in. It was taking so long. They were constantly kicking me, and it never got better. I mean, we milked Tycho like.
And you get like half a cup. Like,
Yeah, it was.
cool.
It was. Yeah. But our time on the land, absolutely, we started ourselves out and our energies out, and I think I got a lot of clarity about. I mean, we weren't sure if we were going to be done with the industry at the time when we left, and that was really hard for me because I felt like I had a real love, like a true love for it, for storytelling, and but I was like, maybe not, maybe that's not this lifetime, maybe I'm supposed to do something else, and the time away and working with ourselves and doing martial arts together, actually, like because. Shit comes up when you're doing martial arts together. You know what I mean? And like
you learn a lot about yourself.
And that was could be really challenging to
I
like.
really don't like getting punched in the face.
Yeah, she doesn't like getting punched in the face. But hey, guess who likes to get punched in the face?
We talked about this.
And it's funny, actually, in real life in martial arts, I get punched in the face and I'm like, now it gives me permission to really like go for it.
Don't stop.
Yeah. I'm like, I love it. Yeah, exactly. I'm Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot yesterday.
Oh no, it went out. Damn it. Continue.
But basically, like all of the extra, like kind of, I get what are you calling it? Money and tits that were like
Tits and money.
Tits and money,
Humble
washing machine part that was attached to both of our loves of the storytelling and the mystery that is this esoteric art that is also this weird business in this fucked up
So
city.
weird.
All those things sort of like died out, and all that was left was the part of it that was true and good for our lives in this manifestation. And so we've really gotten to kind of pick it back up, and like a few years later, like in the woods still, but we've been back in the world a little bit. He's starting to get back in the world a little bit, and it's been a much different experience. Like his auditions and like his practice, like the act of him doing his auditions and then the final product of them, like he's always been an absolutely incredible auditioner, like so much so that I went through like deep insecurities with my own auditions because of it. But it's changed. You know what I mean? Like the like angst and the anger that would come along with it is not there anymore. Wouldn't you say?
And you saw it in your animals too. You like the animals were the embodiment of, you would say like cats and dogs, like however, and that's very true. So however, like if I'm really anxious and I'm feeling insecure, Charlie is like, oh, like he doesn't feel safe, you know? So I have to be mindful of my energy. And then, if I'm chill, like everyone's like, wow, your dog is so chill. So like lately that's
nobody has ever said that about your dog.
I swear to God, it happened. Yeah,
People love your dog.
They love him.
I love Tick Butt. Tick Butt's not gonna hear this.
Tick Butt.
I love Tick Butt, but wouldn't say he's chill.
Yeah. Well,
I know.
Yeah. But Tick Butt, because I guess I can take him on a plane and people like he's very chill and he'll just lay in my lap like the entire time and people are always like,
Do you think it's because he's being inundated with EMFs? He's like, this is too much.
Yeah, maybe. That could be. That absolutely could be. How did the woods help you sort, and how did that make your relationship better? Like being in the stillness.
It's never been still.
But having the stillness,
You
or
take
okay,
so much chaos into it, and it's not still.
in nature, actually,
still.
that's true.
Never still.
Well,
Because like in terms of not the concrete jungle, you're not dealing
I
with
understand what you're
noise.
saying.
Yeah. You're dealing with a different kind of noise.
he's trying to say something. Would you like to listen?
I'm sorry.
I forgot what I was going to say.
No.
you bring your own chaos into
So we started in February 2021, and made this terrible purchase of these two sheep. And this was the first part. This is the first part of the herd. It was Pearl. Pearl. This is the third or fourth home that Pearl had been on, but we bought Pearl because she was probably pregnant. And then we bought a ram that we named John Rambo, and he was about this big.
I love the names.
Yeah, and so I had this bright idea. We got him. We cut him out of the cage that we transported him in. We put him into this thing that I'd made under the barn, and I had this bright idea where I was like, "Man, I like dogs. Come back, You just let the door out, and like, let go out a little bit, And they were gone. They were split, and it was like February. It's freezing out. It's just sun just came up, and now we have to figure out how to get these animals back in. And there's nothing that will stop them from being eaten by coyotes if they don't want to come back. Like we can't get them back in. Those animals are gone.
Or jumping into the river, which they almost did.
They almost
and
jumped into the river, too.
sheep are pretty dumb.
They're notorious for finding ways to kill them.
Yeah.
It's like a big part of it. And so, like there's like miles of space that we're trying to track and keep these things at least like close to the house.
Yeah.
And so at one point we got them back to an area that we then decided about after 2 hours of doing this. I was like, I'm going to build the electric fence around them, but I don't want to build it twice. So I'm like, I'll build it and you stay with them and keep them here. So she's now got to like park for the day while I'm like going through and building this fence for the first time I've ever done anything like this. So I'm like running lines and it's a lot of digging holes. I'm like putting stakes in, cementing like 4x4s into the ground and making this big square, which is now just like a small sub pen for like, we've expanded so much from then, but it's just chaos. And I'm like, I got it. Cool. And it got to this certain point where right at the very end, I misread the like how to ground the thing, which is like a big part of it. The fence needs
to be grounded. In order
Otherwise, it
to
won't work.
electrify.
Yep.
Like, it's not gonna do anything. It doesn't have this connection, and I lost it. And then I had to stop myself and be like, if you don't get your shit together, like dude, these things are gonna die because if it hits night, like you're not keeping them.
I remember the story. Yeah.
So I ran into and I had this electronics that like I really liked, and I was like, fuck it, and just started ripping the thing apart. Like I took the whole thing apart. I grabbed wire cutters out and I cut out the component that I needed and just like made it and put it onto the thing and just like invented my own version of how to connect these things together. Okay.
I was gonna say he was only able to do that because he was studying a rogue electrician for the last
Like 8 years.
8 years.
No, it was like 6 years.
But this is part of like in LA, we had all of these ideas, we had all of this research, we had all of these thoughts, and we weren't able to put them into practical use. So
it was
like
all here.
within one day of moving out into the woods and deciding to like do this, he's all of a sudden like learned more. I mean, not more. Like you had to have a base, but
in a way that I hadn't gotten to before. And so yeah, we kept the sheep. They kept them. We kept them in the pens. But I mean, looking back on it, like the whole first year was thinking that like the world was gone, and we just hadn't. They hadn't
during the pandemic. It was wild. What a crazy world. And you guys, you
were like,
timed it perfectly. Yeah. You were like, before this whole big wave. Yeah, you totally. I mean,
you just told my wife.
A year prior, you called it as you did. You knew the fire was going to. You're like, what are you doing? Why are you living here? Like, there's going to be fires. And then, sure enough, a month later, the house burns down.
So I realize now, about a year after doing this, we were trauma farming because I had this idea, like I called it trauma farming, because I had this idea that like the world's going to tip over, but I'm going to rise. And I'll be like, you need a tomato, you need an egg, we got it.
You need a tomato, you need a tomato, you get a tomato, you get a tomato, you get a chicken.
I was like, oh, there's an avenue here. Like chaos is a ladder. Right?
I also, to be fair, like we had just our dreams. Our other dreams were dead, like the storytelling dreams. And so what's the
world closed.
What's the noblest thing that we can do? Oh, provide high quality food for others. That's a pretty noble dream. Like that was a part of the whole original idea.
But so much of that, like trying to bring that into action was like temper tantrums and screaming and
we're so temper tantrumy. You know what I mean? Like both of us are.
I remember my dad was trying to help at one point, and he like swept up a bunch of like there was paint or something, like chips of paint on the floor in the barn. So he swept it all up and he threw it into a pasture. That pasture that I had built, he'd thrown it on the ground there, and I was like, ah! Like you had somehow made my completely organic farm, which is not.
because of things people have put in before us.
It was already wrecked before we got there.
With
like
Roundup,
40 years. Yeah. Well, it was deer plots, and that there's a whole lot of
hunting. It's hunting land, so people just whatever.
I still want to get back to how you guys fight and how has your fighting evolved and how has it served? Because you guys don't leave any stones unturned, which is, I think, from what I can tell, has helped your relationship and our relationship immensely because we talk about it. So has that. Like how has your fighting evolved? Like how do you, and what is effective? Like what is effective communication when you're having challenges?
I think it starts with the person you're having the conversation with. So I operate in our relationship like she is striving to achieve what she thinks is actually right. Now, if I agree with that or not, but I think she's trying to do what she thinks is right. I know that about her, right? So when I go into a fight and I do my best to try to remember that, which helps me reflect on like, am I right in this or am I wrong in this? So I think that's the first part of it is like the partner that I'm fighting with. We have something that needs to be said, or we're not getting something that we need. So like, how do we get that fair for both of us? Things have to be in a fair exchange. And if you're in a relationship and you're not having fair exchange, then like it's just not sustainable. And so if you're in a relationship with somebody that won't do that or let you have that, like you just gotta call it. Like it's just not going to work. So yeah, that's the first thing is like you have to get on the same page with somebody. I would say that wants to,
I remember he said something to me. I used to say this all the time to him. I'd be like, I would never do that. And he said to me once in a way that I finally heard, he's like, yes, but I'm not you. And there's so many things that you do that I would never do. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And so I think that was when I started to realize like, okay, there's a version of something that he's doing that's upsetting for me. Like, let me find that version that is in myself. So like, I don't do A, but I do like my version of A, you know what I mean? And so then like, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, but like when I start to work on that within myself, I just would watch it like magically disappear with him. And then we got in a fight like not that long before we left and for here. And
you mean for this podcast or no?
Yeah. Like this past week we got in a fight and I don't even remember what it was about, but we were both angry and stressed and tired. And then we both got to a point where we come back an hour later and we're like, we know we're fighting with ourselves. Like we know, like he was like, this is what I know that I want to work on so that I don't feel that way. And I had my own version. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to work on so I don't feel that way either. And like, that's really helpful. Like, I don't know that, I think that we still like can say ugly, stupid things to one another. I think what's changed is how quickly we like release that and come back to, okay, maybe the words, I don't consider like the words that he said to be fair or like seeing the bigger picture, but I think that there's a feeling, like an underlying feeling. Like it's the same with the notes thing we were talking about. Like maybe I think it's like a stupid note. Like as a lawyer, I can like rebuke that note. Rebut. Thank you.
I think you and rebut need to it gets you a dictionary.
But there's like an underlying feeling that I can acknowledge as my husband and my love, like that I've gone through all these experiences with. Like there's a feeling that I need to acknowledge. Like what is that? Like if I have to use my own words to understand it, fine. But why don't I do that? And annoyingly, like if he's having an issue with something that I'm doing, like, yes, there's a version, that's a part of him in himself, but I'm like, he coming at me is a reflection of me, vice versa. So like, it's just hearing it and
yeah, I feel like the rebound, like of like holding on to the anger. It's the moving through and it's awareness because you guys do so much individual work on yourselves.
I really want to say this one point. It's going to be quick. When I knew I was really in a really great shape as an athlete, it's not that I wouldn't get tired. It was how quickly I would recover from being tired. Continue. That's all.
Yeah.
A lot of these problems you're talking about, like communication, and I think a bigger issue is that we don't actually understand how to use English. Most people don't understand like what there's all these rules to it. A verb can be active, it can be passive, it can be indicative, it could be there's all these different ways it could be completed. It can be in the past tense. There's all these like labels for how like sentence structure is designed or is like the pattern that we're expressing through words. And our emotions have a heart, like that's what's trying to get through. And we're using these symbols that we abstract and manipulate to communicate.
Often very poorly.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of rules that aren't like, they're not taught very well. So if you're having a problem with communication, like, well, actually learn the rules of the language you speak. That's like the first thing. And so many of our problems are really based off of the language that we speak and we think. So if you think in a certain language, like there's all these limitations to that language. We have a linear language in English, but like there's different languages that have, they're very circular or they all work and move differently.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting that like, I think it was Hopi there's a quantum mechanics has all these problems in it, or like these contradictions, because of it's being spoken and thought of in English. But if you use Hopi language like the Hopi Indians speak, then it doesn't have the same issues. It's like, yeah, that's like not a problem. We have that built into just the way that our language unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no conflict.
Yeah.
There's no wave particle duality nonsense. It's just is, or whatever.
And like people who study the I Ching, like when you came up with quantum mechanics, they're like, that's just what we know the world to be. Like,
it's not a question that you need to like.
I mean,
answer.
this is not like you want to say, like the map is not the territory, is what Terence McKenna became famous for saying. But then Robert Anton Wilson, was it Robert Anton or was it
the menu?
Wait, do your best, Terence McKenna.
I haven't done a Terence in so long. The mushroom.
mushroom. Yeah. There it is. There it is.
But the menu is not the meal. Is like a different version.
I like that.
I like that one
because
even
you
better.
can
I like
taste
that.
it and you can smell it, and those are the older, like the gustatory and the olfactory sense are older than something that's it's really ancient. So like you can taste a meal, you can smell a meal,
and
in a way that so the menu is not the meal. The fish and chips on the menu is not the fish and chips that you get on the plate that you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
So what that's saying is that there's no word that can really express the emotion. It's only an estimation of it, right? So you need to calm down when you're getting into these emotional states and you're angry because you can't express yourself. And then all these lower circuits start firing and you're operating from my biosurvival circuit is being violated. So now I have anxiety.
Totally.
And then you're coming from this, I'm not getting the milk right now, and and that's really what's being said. But now it's projecting it into like, you don't acknowledge me or whatever it is. You're not acknowledging some need that I have. And so that's kind of the first part. And then I think, I think all the time about this Bill Mayer's, is Bill Mayer, the song of the fathers be good to your daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the time.
Oh,
about
John
that.
Mayer.
John Mayer, yeah.
I was like, who the fuck is Bill Mayer?
Bill Mayer.
Bill Murray? Bill Murray. You combine
John
Bill
Mayer.
and John.
Because like, there's it's just so easy to say something that could create this spiral that's asymmetrical and like it throws them off course in their life. It's so easy to do it because they don't have the circuitry that young. And so now I know that I didn't have the circuitry that young. And then you start to look at your parents and you're like, you know what? They didn't have the circuitry to deal with it.
Yeah.
They weren't equipped with it. So I think there's a whole lot of you did this, that you need to fix this. You need to like give me remedy for some wrong that will never.
In my 20s, it was blaming my parents, and then you grow out of that and you're like, well, now it's on me.
It will never solve the problem.
Yeah.
You're also acting like that person was there to serve you only. They weren't their own person that had their own desires and their own needs and their own fucking challenges and their own traumas. So if you start applying that to all these other people in your life, no relationship's ever going to work. There's a guy named Schopenhauer, and he was a philosopher some time ago, I don't know. But he said this thing, which is I think is valuable. It said, you become yourself to the degree that you make everybody else yourself. So if I see it in you, I can only see it in you because I have it.
Yeah.
So if I see it in you and it bothers me, well, it's my relationship with it.
Yeah.
That's being activated.
Yeah.
So if I went and looked at it and go, well, how did this thing that you do, how can I find value from that? How can I learn to own that? How can I find gratitude for you showing me that? Now we can hold hands and walk into the sunset. And get to like what's really important, because
that's what you're talking about. Like seeing it, and figuring out your relationship with it and then clearing it out for yourself. And then it always goes away.
Yeah.
And then and then Bob's will, or me will come back and be like,
like something I would get angry at him about like over the past couple years maybe is that like, I'm like, you get so upset about something so quickly, like when it's not going the way you think it's going and it like there's the wretch, like all of a sudden like you're angry and it messes with your whole day. And I'm like, I let him being angry mess with my day. Like I take on his anger and I'm like, why? I don't need to do that. And so like, I'm not even joking. Every time I would just be like, okay, he's mad. Like, let him be mad. Go about my day. And then he'll be like, man, I got mad and I don't know what it was. I'm not mad anymore. Every time. Like that's an example. And like, the amount of times that happens is infinite.
Next time I get mad, I'll be like, let me be saying your thing. You're not giving me permission soon enough.
One thing that I think also you did really well, Chris, in our relationship, when you taught me to be like, hey, I feel like this, this makes me feel, when you do this, it makes me feel this.
Yeah, that's something you guys, when you guys were into NLP and I was not into NLP.
Yeah, you're like, fuck that noise.
But Bob's would always be like, but you use NLP all the time. And I'm like, I don't use NLP. I don't know NLP. But
I would be like, well, what wouldn't happen if you didn't?
And I'm like, fucking nothing, bitch. I know this game. But
yeah, basically all the politicians and everyone, like any public speaker, they're doing subliminal messaging and NLP.
But I mean, essentially,
but it's manipulation. You can use it as a tool of, you can use it at understanding, or build a house with it, or you're gonna kill someone with it. Yeah.
But why I think NLP is usually not great. Whereas, because NLP was they studied the most successful professional speakers.
Milton Erickson was the most effective hypnotherapist in history, and a couple of guys down in San Diego sort of reverse engineered whatever strategy he was doing by watching videos and going through his notes, and started to go, okay, we're going to name that this, and then we're going to create a way of using quick patterns that we could throw out.
So they reverse engineered like all the patterns that the successful speakers had that were a commonality. They were like, okay, this is what makes them successful speakers, and then you try to build it from the ground up. But they already tried to do that with like classic novels, right? Like they're like, okay, well, all these classic novels have these in common. Let's try to build a classic novel from here out. Guess what? They're not classics. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, like there's something missing within that like framework of commonality that doesn't, like, okay, you can have all of those, but if the correct intention or channeling of a larger energy or spirit isn't there, then it's pointless. So like when we talk about setting boundaries, and I'm like, if it's just a rule that your relationship coach gave you, as opposed to like in the moment being like, hey, this feels incorrect. Like if you have a boundary that you've set forever because that's what you've decided is set, you're like missing the moment in order to like keep this tent post here.
Yeah.
And like NLP, I think like, I know that there are people who are very good at it, but I always hate it, right? Like whenever anyone's like using it, I instantly know, and I don't like it because there's something disingenuine about it. And I think truly the greatest public speakers have a excellent grasp on language and how to utilize it, and are speaking from a truth that they are experiencing at the time, and they're able to
try to
bridge
share
that connection with
somebody
the audience that they are communicating with at that time, which NLP can't teach all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, use these tricks and stuff.
Yeah. I wanted to come back to this, which you mentioned, which was fair trade or fair exchange. Fair exchange. Because a lot of people, when people talk about relationships, when they talk about like, there's not a tit for tat, or, there's not like, oh, well, I did this for you and I'm going to throw this back in and you did this. So can we define this, what this means?
Altruism is always going to lead to resentment, because you're doing something for either somebody you're looking down upon or somebody you're trying to gain favor from, right? Or you're doing it to gain favor from a different person. So you're trading.
Reciprocity is really important for relationships.
I think the better way to think about this, and this is something that we've both discovered kind of recently through our interest, is that like everything is contract. So if everything's contract, you're accepting that contract when you sign it, and so do you understand what you're signing? Or you just like terms and conditions, let's just get it over with so I can get the movie on. Like a lot of our world is just always accepting these contracts without having any idea what's said in it. But that could only ever
Christie always reads it.
That can only ever be possible if you were ignorant to it. You became ignorant to it. And so because you became ignorant to it, it became just like this thing that I don't care. Let's get it over with. And it's what's in the fine print. Now that's on the phone or whatever, but like that same anecdote or that same way of framing it is you can apply that to how you interact with another person. There's nonverbal contracts. There's all that stuff that's going on where you're accepting something and then maybe you have buyer's remorse later. But like, you know, you let the devil in. He doesn't come in on his own.
You let the vampire in. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to let the vampire in. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
you have to invite
Yeah, and right.
this entity in.
Yeah.
So you like that, you contracted with that being. And you just didn't like the outcome because you weren't clear about what it was that you were actually saying yes to. So I think that educating yourself on what you're actually doing there, what you actually want, what you're expecting.
And how do you see
If
it for
I-
the
if I'm-
context of
I'm,
your
yeah,
relationship?
I'll clarify. I'll clarify that because
Go ahead, bring
basically
it on. Make a lemonade.
because when you start to understand that a relationship is so in contract, it has to be with two entities that are capable of making their
Meeting
own
of the minds.
Yeah, a meeting of the minds.
So you mean like two people?
yeah, you have to be you considered
Conscientious,
a
aware,
conscientious adult.
divine being.
Yeah.
Individual
Yeah.
conscientious adult making a contract with another individual conscientious adult or entity in contract law. Like we're usually
Right,
dealing with
right.
entities, but like for a relationship, we're
Right.
dealing with a
for
being.
businesses or sure.
So in order for me to understand that I am in contract with him over our relationship, I have to again remember that I am responsible for this whole being that I am, and then that he is this whole being that he is, and that we are working together for what, you know. And if we forget that, like you can always come back and renegotiate within.
So I loved
within
about
each other.
John DeMartini, he would renegotiate his marriage with his wife every 7 years.
Yeah, because isn't that after like you have every cell in your
They-
body is different after 10 years?
Well,
Yeah,
whatever, but
that's like the
but
pop culture version of the actual truth of that.
But what he did was he made a deal with her. He's like, look, let's make a 7-year contract. And he'd say things like, marriage is a business choice. And I told that to my dad once and he was like, oh.
He said it to me like within our first like week together, thinking like he was testing to see how I was going to react. And I was like, yeah. And he was like,
Cool.
okay.
Because my dad had such a great, that's a terrible way to go into a marriage. He goes, where's the love? And I was like, and then there's this, I don't have a lot of rules that I like consciously or am aware of, but
Yeah.
one of them is you only listen to people who have what you want about how to get what you want. So everybody
Yeah.
can tell you how
Yeah.
to get it, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
Yeah.
can tell you how to do it, but they never did it.
sure.
Says Jay-Z. Right? So like you listen to the people that have what you want
Yeah.
In that area.
in that area.
Like if you're looking for plant advice, you go to people who haven't killed their plants.
Yeah. So to end on this, because I know we're now over
Scrape
3
it.
hours in, we're doing it.
All right.
Yeah, we're
What's up?
Just getting warmed up.
But you do it.
yeah.
How
We
you
should do it. My last question is what makes a relationship great? Like how have you figured out that, I mean, from what I can tell, it's you guys have one of the most unique relationships that I've seen. It's so honest that you'll poop with the door open and, you know, you'll be workshopping something. And
I was going to say cuddles, but pooping.
Cuddles are good. Cuddles are good.
But the amount of intimacy that you guys share, I haven't, you know, I don't know a lot of couples who have a lot of the hard conversations, have, you know, you guys are living on a farm alone together with a young one and, you know, like organizing these animal, like, you know, and then also being artists, like it's pretty extraordinary from, you know, what I can tell. And so how have you built this? Like how is like in the short of like to answer that?
Share a vision, you know. That's like an Old Testament idea. Is like people. The idea is if you don't have a vision, if you're not like driving towards fulfilling something that you want to do, we should share one, you know. And so I think that's like a really important thing in a relationship. If you don't share the same vision, if you're not working, if your efforts aren't going,
it's also all a relationship. Like this changing of the seasons is based off of the relationship between the earth and the sun. Like everything is actually based off of relationship. So it's not, I don't think that it's a relationship that ends up being great. It's like you continue to try to be the best version of yourself and you support another person in doing that.
and you know that it's like it oscillates. Like you talk about, there's phases that it goes through. So like, you know, there's the winter time and the springtime. They're all very different experiences. The effects of that are like very different. So you kind of gotta. It's not one thing. like it's one thing in one way, but in a lot of ways, it's always nuanced and changing.
Yeah.
So while you're moving through that role, while you're rolling through that spiral, it's you're at least going towards the same idea, wanting each other to accomplish those.
Yeah, I mean, because I'll say, like, if our visions changed drastically, we wouldn't be able to be together, and we know that, and that's scary. Right? But you have to
I want to be an accountant. That'd be a terrible accountant.
We did.
You'd be making me do all your work.
Yeah.
Can you? I need those 10W30s yesterday.
Oh my God. Do you have any other more thoughts, or is that a good place to end it?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about words before, and like the word love has been we're so oversaturated with that idea. And I think it's I hate the word narcissist because it's
overused all the time.
And then you just label it, and then you have your own ideas and projections of what that is. And I think love is the same. So, without sounding so ridiculous and convoluted by using a word that most of us can't understand because it's so big, like it is like if you choose love, you go back to love over and over and over again within yourself, then I think that the world reflects that back to you.
Yeah, you keep, you know what, this is kind of a realization that I had that you shared with me, that you keep, no matter whatever path, like, friends or your partner is on, you keep choosing love every single time. So you're on the path of love, and you're, choosing truth and beauty and God and that higher realm. And, they're like, okay, I'm going to go over here. You're like, okay, I'm still going on this path. And so you're loyal to that. You're not loyal to the person. You're loyal to God and the higher self. Yeah. I love that.
Thou art God.
Thou art God.
Thou art God.
Guys, thank you.
Share water, brother. Never thirst.
Well, hello, Water Brothers. Nice chatting with you, Water Brothers.
Sweaty balls.
Let's get swifty.
Let's get swifty. Guys, that was fucking amazing. I had so many more questions on here. I mean, we'll do a part 2. I mean, literally just so many more. I mean, fuck, I think we covered so much. Yeah, these are my best friends, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. There goes it.
Just real quick, give me an outro.
All right. Hi, guys. If you like this episode, please comment, like, and subscribe so we can get on that algorithm and you can see more of our latest episodes.
Do it one more time, but
Right.
be less hesitant.
Don't look at her. You made her nervous.
I totally 100%. I'm getting better at it. I swear to God. Aw. Bob's is holding my hand. Hi, guys. If you like this episode, please comment, like, and subscribe so we can get on that algorithm and you can see more of our latest episodes.